Good evening. The regular meeting of the Richmond Board of Education will come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sandy, if you could please read our mission statement and take roll call.
At Richmond Community Schools, we provide a quality education that empowers students to be successful in a global community. Board Member Telto? Here. Board Member Cunningham? Here. Board Member O'Donnell is absent with notice. Board Member Michon? Here. Board Member Castillo? Here. I'm Board Member Fortuna, and I'm also here. And Board Member Sutton? Here. Great. We have a quorum.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is we need to approve it. However, we need to make two changes. We will be adding under 7A on number 3, which is the proposed overnight extended trip for the robotics to Houston, Texas. And then under item 13D, we're going to add approval for that trip.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion, Mr. Walmsley?
I'll turn it over to Mr. Thiel for the personnel report.
We have 2 resignations. Stacy Usinski, high school guidance counselor, and Krista Rezmanicki was an assistant cook in the middle school. She'll still stay on as a substitute and work occasionally. We have 1 new hire, custodian, Maria Lee. And the notice of appointment, Kat Lemon will be the junior varsity girls tennis coach at the high school.
And there were no errors brought to my attention regarding the special meeting minutes at the 6 o'clock on March 11th or the regular meeting minutes of March 11th at 7 p.m., nor did I receive any claims and account questions regarding March's checks.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, for the JV tennis coach, why did we do this? Because we have a number of girls that we needed to...
We had it a couple of years ago. We had one a while back. It's been
a really long
time. It's been a while, but the numbers, we have a lot of kids.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
It's exciting.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Our next item on our agenda is our 23-24 Outstanding Teacher of the Year.
At the end of the presentation for the board, we're going to take a picture. So at that time, we can go shake hands at the end of the 3 presentation.
Good evening. We are thrilled to announce and celebrate the incredible dedication and hard work of our outstanding Teachers of the Year. These remarkable educators embody the spirit of excellence that defines our school district and serves as a beacon of inspiration for us all. Teaching is not merely a profession. It's a labor of love. It's a work of heart. Our teachers exemplify this sentiment every day, showing their genuine care and support for each student, nurturing not only their academic growth, but also their personal development. We extend our heartfelt appreciation to these exceptional individuals for their passion, hard work, and commitment to our students' futures. Their contributions enrich the lives of our students and strengthen the fabric of our school community. Thank you for your continued support and dedication to educational excellence. Each principal has also prepared words for their building's winners. And first, I would like to welcome up Ms. Borwick. Carrie Shagnon has been a teacher within the Richmond School District for over 20 years. She specifically makes an impact here at the high school on a daily basis. While not one to boast, Carrie silently leads amongst her colleagues and student body. Standing at the front door every day, she warmly welcomes students and staff as they enter into the building. It is a calming presence that individuals love to see as they start their day. As our senior English teacher and senior class advisor, Carrie is an integral part of ensuring students are prepared for the post-secondary journey. She supports students with their access to parchment, completion of Zello, and helps to ensure that students understand the FAFSA process. She celebrates their accomplishments when deciding on colleges and other post-secondary decisions and helps to support other individuals who work with their graduates. As the CTE teacher cadet teacher, she has brought in multiple individuals to help facilitate the real-world connection for her students and is able to do so because of her strong connections with our community. Carrie not only serves as a model teacher for those aspiring educators, but for those new staff in our building as well. Due to her demeanor, our new staff feel comfortable going to her for support and guidance, which is an asset to the building as a whole and the development of the teaching profession. It is a privilege and an honor to have Carrie work in our building with our students on a daily basis. Thanks for all that you do at Richmond High School. Congratulations. I would now like to invite up Ms. Morella.
Good evening. Rachel Churchill is truly an outstanding teacher. Each day is an adventure in her classroom, which is evidenced by the engagement of her students. When you walk into Rachel's classroom, you immediately see students engaged in their learning, either through discussion, investigations, or projects. The relationships Rachel builds with her students is one based on mutual respect, empathy, and the ability to make positive connections. They respect her tremendously and truly enjoy being in her class. Rachel has also incredibly high academic standards, which is evident in her students' growth and achievement scores. Rachel's students consistently demonstrate adequate growth and achievement in both science and social studies. Rachel's passion for teaching is obvious in the well-prepared lessons that are delivered each day. Her students are encouraged to be independent thinkers in a classroom environment that is fair and equitable. Her lessons are differentiated to meet the varying needs of all of her students. And when students feel as if they are treated fairly and with respect, they want to learn. And when students want to learn, they show growth and achievement. When our students show growth and achievement, we know we're doing our job. And Rachel most definitely gets her job done. Rachel is an active teacher leader at RMS. She is currently a member of both the building and district level school improvement teams. And Rachel has delivered professional development to her peers at district-provided professional development by guiding her team through data digs and leading them through conversations to help drive instruction. She regularly collaborates with her team to offer students the best educational experiences possible. Rachel is a proud Richmond High School graduate and is one of our district's biggest champions. Congratulations, Rachel, for being our 2024 Richmond Middle School Outstanding Teacher of the Year.
And lastly, I would like to invite up Ms. Manguni.
Thank you. It is my honor to recognize the Will L. Lee Elementary Teacher of the Year. Amidst all of the busyness that happens at the elementary school, there is a teacher behind a door who shines so brightly. This teacher is beloved by students and admired by colleagues with passion and commitment and unwavering love for teaching. She's not just a teacher. If you've ever met Mrs. Barrett, she is a true beacon of light. She lives through her students and illuminates the path and the knowledge that they want to take with boundless care and affection. But what sets Mrs. Barrett apart is her genuine love for her students. From the moment she steps into her classroom, they are greeted with warm smiles, open arms, and a sense of belonging that transcends much farther beyond the classroom walls. It's not just her love for her students, it's her unwavering dedication to their growth and success. She goes above and beyond to ensure that each lesson is engaging, relevant, and tailored to meet the diverse needs of her students. Whether it's staying late to provide extra help, attending professional development workshops, enhancing her teaching skills, mentoring our brand new 3 third-grade teachers, or collaborating with colleagues, it just never ends with Mrs. Barrett. She keeps going. She's always willing to go the extra mile and make a difference in the lives of her students. She actively engages with parents, families, and the community for a strong relationship and networks herself and her students to make sure they become the best that they can. She believes in the power of collaboration and understands that education is a partnership. Through open communication, mutual respect, and shared goals, she works tirelessly to ensure that every child gets the support that they deserve. I can attest to all of these characteristics as a past parent myself. Mrs. Barrett had my son for 2nd and 3rd grade, and that alone deserves an award. As we celebrate the Elementary Teacher of the Year, I don't just want to honor her achievements, but the impact that she's left on students. This is Mrs. Barrett's last year, and she embarks on retirement, and I could not think of a more deserving teacher. We wish you the very best.
Thank you. At this time, I will please ask the Board of Education to please stand, and we're going to take pictures with each winner to be able to celebrate. Yes, please, against our picture wall, the rear free. So we will first start off with Miss Shagna. So if Miss Shagna and her family and the board want to get together first. Yes. All right. Good evening. It's that time of year. Can you believe it's that time of year? I just really can't. But we're going to be standing up here tonight, and we're going to be talking about the fun and engaging, amazing opportunities that we have planned for our students this summer with our 2024 Summer Learning Camp offerings. So, some logistics. Our summer camp is going to run June 17th to July 11th. We've made a slight change this year, and based on teacher feedback, based on parent feedback, based on attendance trends, we are going to be off the entire week of July 4th. So July 1 through the 4th, that Monday through Thursday, the entire week is going to be off. All of our camps are always Monday through Thursday. The academic camps run 8 to 11:30 in the morning, and the athletic and the enrichment camps run from noon to 2. We also have the Girls STEM camp returning, and you can see our registration event is scheduled for May 10th, 3:30 to 5 at the Richmond High School Gymnasium, again, as a joint event where everybody can sign up for their camps. All right, so some basic information about the summer camps. Transportation, breakfast, and lunch will also be offered free again this year. And once again, you can opt into the academic camps, but you can't just opt into an enrichment camp. You need to be enrolled in an academic camp in order to have the enrichment camps being offered to you. So Kinder Connect, once again, all of our academic camps are returning to us this year. Kinder Connect is intended for pre-kindergarten, entering kindergarten, to really solidify those foundational skills in literacy. Same with our first grade fundamentals course, and actually we had huge growth, and we actually ended up needing 2 additional sections last year, so really excited about our current kindergartners having the opportunity to once again solidify those early literacy foundational skills, phonics, phonemic awareness, early writing, early literacy components for our first fundamentals course. STEM literacy is returning for grades 1 through 3, entering grades 2 through 4. Once again, it's an informational text-based class where they get to design, engineer, learn how slides work, and then they actually get to make their own water slides. It's a really great, fun, and engaging camp. Math Mindset is also going to be returning based on all of the research from Carol Dweck, who does the Growth Mindset program. It's a really great camp for students, especially in the middle school, with mathematics being proficient by grade 8. Middle school Readers and Writers is returning for 2 different sections. We have our grades 3-4 camp, and then we have our middle school 6-8 Readers and Writers camp, all talking about the theme of community and character. Who are you? And that idea of connecting to yourself and to your community. Such an amazing camp, really heavily into writing and being able to read all sorts of amazing text, and they do a camp type theme. It's really fun. We are bringing back the Teacher Cadet Internship, which is an exciting opportunity for our CTE teachers to be able to get in those credential hours, as well as get that hands-on learning experience in the classroom, and we're welcoming them back. Credit recovery is also going to be utilized this summer, so that is going to be returning as well. Does anybody have any questions about our academic camp offerings?
So the teacher cadet, is that just for the 10th grade, 10th and 11th?
It's for teacher cadet internship, so it's anybody that's currently in a teacher cadet program only. So if there's a current, let's just say 9th grader or 10th grader that's interested in going into teacher cadet, they would not be able to qualify for this particular internship. They have to have at least a year under their belt of being in our teacher cadet program, that have gone through all of our safety videos, that have gone through all of that can then emerge in that experience.
So is there anything for the 8th and 9th graders?
No. All the academic camps are going to be based K-8.
Okay.
But there is credit recovery options if they qualify.
How many spots, like for credit recovery? What do you have an idea, or do you have the number of kids that can participate?
Yes, like we offer, basically, we analyze what grade has the highest need for credit recovery. We analyze who's already taken credit recovery over the year. And I know that at the high school, Mr. Osborne and Ms. Zabel have a process to identify those students and individually invite them, as well as come down and talk to Mr. Osborne.
Okay.
Hey, this is being offered through the district. We highly recommend you sign up and you go through this. It's an entire thing. So there's individual letters sent out. There's tons of communication to optimize being able to use this program.
Perfect. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
First off, like if we were to look and people were to get this at home, and it says Kinder Connect Pre-K, that would be for all Pre-K students entering that are in there this year or next year?
So that's why I do both, because it's current preschoolers that are going into kindergarten next year. So as parents don't associate their child as to what grade they're entering, parents automatically think of the grade that they're currently in.
Yes.
So in order to make this parent-friendly, I use their current grade as a way to be able to communicate the grade spans.
Okay.
That's why you'll see both. Even in the enrichment camps, too, you'll see kind of strange grades, but you'll see on like the postings, it's ceramics for grades 3 through 5, entering grades 4 through 6.
Yeah, I did see that one on the ceramics one.
Yes.
So I was just asking, so then like, if I have a 4th grader next year, they could go into the STEM literacy 1 through 3, and they would also qualify for, of course, the 3 and 4th graders. But
Yes.
they could also, even if they're going to be a 4th grader next year, they could
That's
do
right.
1 through 3. Okay.
I have tried to make so many options for students. I think minimally, the only grade that doesn't have a minimum of 3 choices right now is our preschool that have really those 2. And really, they're preschool. So that gardening and arts and crafts experience really is the one we want them to experience, to have. But even then, they have 2 choices. Every other option has around 3. So really trying to, offer student voice and choice through our summer camp programs.
Thank you.
Our enrichment camps. This is going to be a lot of fun this year. Times are from noon to 2. All enrichment camps are free. Students must be enrolled in an academic camp in order to participate in an enrichment camp. Once again, transportation, breakfast, and lunch are also offered. This year, and the process for this is I send out a proposal form for staff, and they have the ability to submit proposals of what they would like to see offered for our students, and these are based on real proposals from our own staff members. So I want to point out that, for example, the Tinker STEM Club was a proposal by our current 5th grade teacher who's new to the district, our ceramics by our art teacher, yoga mindfulness, like our title teacher, and actually Mr. Walmsley, Camp Marvel is his idea to bring cartoons and comics and that love of creative writing with a fun theme. So this is our enrichment camp offering. Some brand new camps that we're offering is, for example, the Camp Marvel. And I'm going to just read you a brief description about it. Start your adventure today. Students will create their own superheroes and lead them on an adventure of a lifetime. They will get to be the creator, author, and illustrator of their very own comic book. Students will engage in superhero-themed activities and world building, taking their superheroes and their imaginations on an incredible journey. For the Tinker STEM Club, students will engage in a builder's workshop model packed with fun STEM projects including magnetic tiles, marble runs, snap circuits. Students will engage in themes around growth mindset, perseverance, inventive thinking, engineering, real-world applications, and ideas that can change the world. Ceramics, we are bringing back ceramics. What a popular camp that was, and we're so excited to bring it back this year. Get moving. Team building with sports and literacy. Team building is best learned when experienced hands-on. Students will create their own sports teams, complete with players, coaches, logos, and mascots. Students will use team building skills and cooperative learning to be able to play games, play sports games, do tasks. Students will be engaged in using simple video editing. Students will engage in creating their own sports reels as well. For the yoga and mindfulness, students will learn the basics of yoga and mindfulness. This camp will focus on kindness, being mindful to ourselves and others, learning techniques for focus, how to reduce stress. Activities include yoga, coloring, breathing techniques, journaling, and stretching. College and career explorations was another proposal brought to us by a middle school math teacher. And she writes that students will research different college and careers of interest. Students will engage in interest surveys, research on majors and career paths of their area of interest, and engage in financial literacy components. Students will engage in presentations about their college or career or choice at the end of the camp. So, exciting brand new offerings for us this year. And you can see this is just going to be a really fun camp.
I have one more question.
Yes, questions about the enrichment camps.
Will there be before and after school childcare for these programs? And is that a
possibility? That has always been something that we've looked at, and I would love to be able to look at those.
We can explore it. Currently, we are in negotiations with the early childhood and the MEA, so it'd have to be part of that process, but we can explore it. And I'll look it up too.
Thank you.
Any questions about our enrichment camp offerings?
Yes. I think this is awesome. There's some really awesome things on here, but I can't help to notice after board member Cunningham indicated that there isn't anything for 8th or 9th graders. Is there a particular reason for that, or
no, not necessarily.
Okay.
All of our academic camps come from Macomb County, so we partner with them, and that is what is available to us through their research-based academic camps that they put together for us, and materials and everything that they design.
Yeah, because I just think that, just my own personal whatever, 8th and 9th graders would probably this yoga mindfulness class would probably be awesome for them. But okay. So is that something that we could look into adding something, or probably is that too late at this point? Or
over the past few years, the only students that have attended our summer camp has been either for an enrichment or part of the internship. So they've never been a really research-based summer school program intended for 8th and 9th graders, but it is something that I can definitely look into. Okay.
I think the math too is kind of a high one.
That is a popular class.
But I know we're doing the tutoring thing now, so I'm happy with that. But that would be a good.
Well, the math mindset class, that's a pretty packed class. That one goes over really well.
But that's only up to 7th grade.
For incoming for 8th graders next year.
Got it.
7th graders that are going to be 8th graders next year. Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
I think the important thing you also have to remember is that when you just look at the academic, not even the athletics yet, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, there's 18 classes or 18 programs that are being running. That's almost 25% of our teaching staff to commit to. So that will be our next challenge, is to fill all these with staffing.
Yeah, and it is a challenge every year. And there's other staff that we need, so.
Yeah, because we haven't even addressed the paraprofessionals that we need for certain students with behavior needs and so forth. But the reason, can you just, Alec, talk about the grant and the requirement of why you have to go to both? Because of the requirement of the grant.
Yeah, so part of the 98C and 23G grants that we've received in order to be able to host our summer school does require to have a literacy component embedded into the program. So all of our enrichment camp proposals that went out have to have, and it even says explicitly in the proposal that it has to have a literacy component. for all of the camps because it is grant funded, and that is one of the grant stipulations.
And to give the board a perspective on this, the amount of this program is very unique to Richmond. Not many districts, I don't think any, have this much of a comprehensive. But we're talking probably $100,000 here.
Easily.
That if it wasn't for the Staples and applying for the grant and being diligent, none of this would exist.
Right.
And any other questions? So excited about these camps this year. Right. And of course, our Girls STEM camp is returning July 15th through the 18th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., Monday through Thursday. Once again, transportation, breakfast, and lunch will be served. Wow. That went too quick.
Hey, Mr. Trent, the bar is high. I want to see the excitement.
Yeah, I can't top that. But no, first of all, I thought last year when Miss Staples brought this to me, I went, ugh, we want to balance that with more. But I thought it went phenomenal. We had a good chunk of kids that went from academic camps to various athletic camps. Miss Staples did a great job of kind of identifying some logistical things that I didn't think of, because sometimes I get kind of laser focused. But identifying some logistics, as simple as setting up one table for those kids to eat lunch at, so that either the coaches or the high schoolers that are helping out that come over and walk the kids over know right where to get the kids. So they know, okay, I'm going to a sports camp, I go to the sports table, and the coach will come pick me up. So we're excited to do that again this year. Just a lot of it for us was just working with my coaches and saying, hey, I know you've done this camp for these couple of years. Can we slide the time back a little bit, and we can work with these academic camps? And the feedback on that was very, very positive. So our athletic camps will allow the students to attend the academic camps, and they get to eat lunch before. So that takes one of the tasks off the coach's hands, is making sure the kids have lunch. But these will be offered by a number of our athletic programs here at the high school, and they'll take place either in the gyms here at the high school, or a couple of them take place on the stadium. So as you'll see in your flyer, I'm still working on finalizing dates with coaches. I've got some of them that we're working around summer schedules. We're working with, childcare or summer jobs. But these are some of the camps that I've confirmed so far. Our volleyball camp coming back. That one actually runs for the upper middle schoolers, and it runs after the enrichment camps. So that one they'll be able to go to enrichment and then go to volleyball, because that's coordinated with the high school camp. Hope that wrestling time needs to change on there, because we changed that. That'll be during that enrichment time. Football camp, really pumped. One we got a ton of positive feedback on, was the girls basketball camp. And they're really excited to keep that going. I think all of these camps for our programs are so important. Getting those kids in, getting them around the high schoolers, getting them around our coaches, and getting them in the facilities to see what they've got to look forward to when they get to the middle school and the high school. So, but yeah, as soon as I get those dates finalized, they'll get put in a flyer and they'll get sent out, and we're excited. I'm hoping I can get a volunteer to be Dante for the registration night, which I think would be kind of cool. The kids love seeing him, so.
He's recruiting for you.
Mr. Theo? I think that you're about the right height.
It would work. My question, same one that I asked last year, but that's not all the sports that we have.
Correct.
So are we working towards, because in my mind, some of this, when you look at golf, tennis, those kind of, that it's to build the interest.
Correct.
Right.
Yep. And this is something I've put an emphasis on with our coaches.
Okay.
Trying to figure out how we get to that point where I would love for every one of our programs to have a camp. And some of them, talking to coaches, they say, well, maybe I do offer something like during their season, or a portion of that to spark that interest. But yeah, it's something I definitely put a lot of emphasis on with those coaches, because I'm a big believer in building programs, not just building teams. And these help build those programs from the foundational level. So,
Preston, do they all have a charge to them?
They do, yes.
Because I'm here.
Right.
Some say $1 and some don't have
Yep,
$1.
they will. That'll all be on there when
Got
we do
it.
that.
Okay.
And the reason why they do is that money goes towards our athletic programs. This is part of their
It's like their
one of their
fundraiser?
fundraisers they do. Yep. And part of it covers the ones that have a T-shirt. It covers the cost of that shirt, because the kids love to walk out of there with a bright pink shirt. So, but yeah, we're excited.
So now that we have a junior varsity tennis coach,
That's one we're working on as well. You read my mind. So yes, that's one we're working on, and I don't want to put anything out there that's not confirmed. And if that's something we work it, and oh my gosh, we've got time and we can do this, I will blast that out to everybody that I can get that information out to. So.
And I didn't think that you weren't trying to do that. I was asking the question because the question will be out there.
Yep.
That's not all our sports.
Yes.
What is
and I remember that question from last year.
You're able to answer.
Yep. So, cool.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
very nice.
We got one in between. This is where we added. Okay, we'll let you go sit down and rest a minute. Okay, our next item on our agenda is our proposed overnight extended trip for the robotics team. I know we have Mrs. Dalio here and Mr. Van Gampler, and I see most of the teams here.
So as they're coming up to the board, I just want to make sure the packet that you have, we met today to finalize all the backup, so you should have a packet with the cover sheet. There's also a packet that's stapled that has all the finances from the robotics team. So at the top, you'll see the year is highlighted. I try to do every other year a different color. So you see, like the first one is from 2018. What's interesting, if you look at the last page of each of those school years, you'll see the total debits and total credits. So, for instance, in 2018, there was carryover that they have, but there was spent $31,000 on the program and collected $28,000. When you go to 2019, again at the end, it will show you the total spent $30,000 and $34,000 in credits. So each year there's a slight difference, but you can get a magnitude of the cost of the robotics program. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mikey. You're up.
I'm Mikey DeLeo. I'm the team captain of the robotics team here at Richmond High School. Next to me, I have Donovan Germain, our electrical captain, Courtney Henry, our programming captain, Jay, our safety team representative for tonight, Keegan, my designer in training, Danilo, he is our human player on our drive team, Evan, my mechanical lead, Bryce, one of our programmers, Jacob, one of our programmers, and then obviously my two wonderful coaches, Shelly and John. So we're obviously here to ask for assistance to the first robotics championship in Houston. This has been our best year since the 2020 season has been cut short. We are currently top 60 in the state in district points, and we are looking towards moving forward to Houston.
Mikey, can I interrupt a minute? How many are in the state of Michigan? 500 and...
There are 511 teams this year.
So, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So we start every season in January at the very beginning, and we have 6 weeks to build a robot that can be anywhere from 120 inches in in area and be 125 pounds at the exact same time. This robot has to be able to move 20 feet per second and place parts in a margin of error that is less than 2 to 3 inches. So for us, we compete twice a year at district events. This year we were fortunate enough to win our second district event in school history. Last time was in 2020. And at our first district event, we placed where we wanted to. We just didn't make it as far as we did at our second district event, the District Renaissance event, where we went on, was picked by the number 1 alliance as we were the 2 seed, and we ran through playoffs and came out with victory. And obviously the banner here is to signify our victory at that event. Heading into state champs this past weekend, we finished 10th and were picked by the 6th overall alliance, and we gained enough points to move on to the World Championship. So we have certain safety measures throughout the season just to make sure that everyone on the team is safe and other teams around us. So our team safety representative here worked alongside Riley DeLang, who is out tonight and was out at one of our competitions, to make sure the pits were a welcoming area and an area that was clean and sanitary, as to not cause any injuries to any of us or any people just visiting by the pit. As well as in our rooms, we have safety tests, safety days, and we're continuously revamping the entire team's idea of safety throughout the season, because safety cannot be defined by just a single person. While this may look like everybody on the team is equally as important, it's 100% true. We are obviously mostly up here captains, right? So we hold a role that may be seen as above the rest of the team, but there is no other role more important than those in the stands that are scouting. We recently joined a scouting program. It's as if, say you were a company, a manufacturer, you audit other companies, see what prices or product qualities you might get from them. So we do essentially the same thing with our with other schools at our district competitions, state competitions, and world competitions. And we use a program that we applied for a couple of years ago. And now this year, other teams in our area are also using the same program. And we've partnered with them this year at state specifically. Since we were a small team, we had about 4 in the stands. They had about 4. And then the second team we partnered with had about 6 in the stands. This way everybody had a decent break during competition. So we partnered with them, and we were able to get these audits of each team per every time they play. So we're able to effectively make our choices that help send us off to worlds, send us off to states. Because if you make wrong choices, pick teams that maybe don't fit your strategies as well, you'll fall behind in the competition and you won't gain as many district points. So not only do we participate a lot within our own program, but we like to extend a hand to the FTC teams and the FLL teams too. We currently fully fund the middle school robotics team each year, and also when FLL was running low on funds a couple years back, we paid for them to attend their competitions, just because we know that that program feeds into the FTC program, and ultimately the FTC program leads to us. And it's really nice to just have the cooperative effort as well as get the team mentoring experience with the lower level teams, just because not only will that help us as a team, it'll help us professionally when we move on to pursue our careers. FRC and FTC members are required to obtain 2 sponsorships every year at the beginning of the season. That way we can maintain not only our numbers of teams, but our quality of builds, because it is quite expensive for us to run this program, and that's why we're asking for help. I'd just like to speak a little bit personally about myself. I joined the team to be a programmer. Obviously, Courtney is our lead programmer, so it didn't work out too well for me, but I actually found my love elsewhere in the design program. So instead of going for software engineering in college, I'm now looking more for to go as a mechanical engineer, industrial designer, looking to pursue more of a creative outlook, using different materials, parts, product design, more looking to expand my horizons there.
Thank you for that. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Donovan here, he's our electrical lead. You want to talk a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, I first started in 22. I came in for build, so mechanical, and I didn't know coming in what robotics fully was about. I came in, realized that robotics is a lot of work, a lot more that year than I could actually put in. Came in next year, and I found that electrical was really fun, laying down all the wires. So I switched past from mechanical to electrical, which isn't that far apart, but yeah, it's just a lot of running wires.
Would you like to talk a little bit about how you've done mechanically and what it's going to add to your career in the future?
Sure. So coming into the program, I knew that I wanted to go hands-on into something mechanical, and that's exactly what I did. I learned how to put the work in this year especially, but years past. I joined in 2020, putting in several hundreds of hours into this program a year. It's taught me a lot. Well, it's built my work ethic a whole lot. I don't do well with desk stuff, so this was right up my alley. And, it taught me a lot about stuff outside the classroom and the desk. Sorry. Yeah, it's I guess mechanically, there's a lot of stuff because my back home, what we mostly do is wood, hands-on sort of building stuff, and never really got into metal. And so, especially in the real world and in the career I'd like to pursue, anything around on farms, that's been really helpful. This past summer, I helped my uncle out quite a bit on his farm, and one of the things I remember pretty clearly was he asked me to tap something. A steel, we were selling auto steer in one of his tractors, and he asked me to tap this for him, and I went right at it. Had I not came across this program and done what I did, I never would have knew what a tap was. And there's so much more to it, but I think that's the big thing. And outside mechanical, just teaching me how to develop as a person, it's been incredible. Before I came into this, I was really, more closed off than I am now by a long shot. And the program's really helped me open myself up, try to converse a little bit better with people, because I was real bad at that. And I think I would have taken a huge fall during COVID had I not got the opportunity to become part of the team. And earlier that year in FTC, the season prior, I think that goes for a lot of my peers too.
100%. Anyone else have any words they'd like to say? I'd just like to speak a little bit more to the opportunity that we get as students. Obviously, we're talking about careers now and how mine has changed, how Evans has been reinforced, and how Donovan's has also been changed from mechanical to electrical. I had the pleasure of interning at U.S. Fair Thing earlier this month. So it was really cool to be on the plant floor with the plant manager, walking around, inspecting real-life robots, hearing real-life terminology. It's the main reason I brought up industry audits. That was a direct correlation between my internship and what I see in robotics. Not just to mention the audits, but the terms themselves, like cycling, like run-it rates on press machines, plastic presses. It's really cool, not to mention the amount of companies that come out to the events, set up booths, colleges. Everybody is there setting up booths, trying to talk to these students in these programs, getting them more involved in the workforce and showing them just how much overlap there really is. Other than that, I don't have anything else prepared, so we're more than open to questions.
Can you briefly, you went through the season, you now qualify for Worlds based on your points. Do you have an idea how many qualify for Worlds in Michigan of that 511 teams that we have?
So of those 511, the first cut down to the state championship is the top 180. So from that top 180, they're cut down to the top 86. So of the 600 teams at Worlds this year, there will be 86 teams from Michigan. And before COVID, it used to be a little more, I believe, or no, more people went to states. The same who always won the Worlds. It's always been 80-some teams at Worlds, and being one of the top 50 or 60 in Michigan, I think is really cool.
So if you do the math, that means our team is in the top 15% in the state of Michigan.
100%.
I'm sorry, you said how many teams get to go to Worlds, but I missed that number.
Just over 600.
Oh, okay.
It's worlds, so the title assumes it's from all over the world.
Yes.
What are some countries that are there that you get a chance to meet and experience and play against and communicate with?
Israel,
Brazil.
Steve's from Turkey,
Canada,
Japan,
Mexico,
South Korea,
Netherlands.
Yep, Netherlands. Just about all over, honestly. Not just to mention, so obviously we're in the Michigan district. We also get to meet teams from Hawaii, or obviously teams in Texas, right? Teams from California, teams we would never see at a normal district event because they're all run off of regionals. Or first in Texas, the Texas division runs similar to how Michigan runs.
How many people are on the team? Is this the whole team, or?
We have 13 kids total. Not all the kids are here. We also have 2 shadows. We have a 7th grader and an 8th grader that are on our team as well. We do a shadow program for the kids that were on FTC. And if they participated during the FTC season and we see something, good qualities in them and show a lot of interest, then we'll ask them to be a shadow program during our upcoming season.
So then
they know what they want
when
to
they're coming into it. Yeah.
Are there a lot of universities or technical schools that give out scholarships based on your competitions? Or
$1.5 million.
Yearly.
How much? I'm sorry.
$1.5 million yearly.
Just in our state, or?
No, that's
U.S.
Let me ask the question maybe in a different way.
Right.
Are there scholarships specifically for students who are in first for robotics that complete it, and it gives you a leg up on getting scholarships?
Right, if you go to Worlds.
Yes, that's what those are for. They're first alumni only scholarships.
All right, so that 1.5 is specifically for students that are in first.
Correct.
Are there a lot of which schools in Michigan?
Kettering is a particular one. I can also speak to Lawrence Tech. That's my prospecting school right now. I can also speak to them that they have it for a scholarship program. Central,
Saginaw Valley, Grand Valley. Those are all the ones I know for sure. I'm at Michigan Tech.
Yep.
Yeah. This is where we've all sent kids, so that's how I know.
Yes. all the schools we have listed, we have had at least one student go there and receive some first benefits.
You mentioned that each student is, maybe I misunderstood you, but each student is required to get 2 sponsorships for the team. Is that correct?
Yes, they are required, but if they're not able to, that's fine.
How did this year go?
This year,
How was your fundraising year, I guess? How much funds were you able to bring in to help the club?
I don't have the exact amount, but everybody got 2. We have some that pretty much they follow across the street. They give every year. Excuse me. So if a student has trouble finding sponsorship, then we will send them to a place that we know is going to do, so that way they have their second or first if needed. So that way they don't feel like they're a complete failure. So we make sure that everyone has an opportunity to get a yes.
Do you happen to know how much you raised as a fund? I'm assuming you have like a 501.
I do. I don't have it with me right now.
You don't have the numbers that you've raised so much so far this year?
If you got it on your budget sheet.
yes.
I don't think
If I was hearing you right, you don't have a 501c3.
That is correct.
No, you do not.
You do not. So the money that you have in those funds, so for this point, at this point, there's roughly 13,000 in credits and 14,000 in debits. again, everything may not have hit the accounts yet, but these are run today.
So we don't have a specific how much was fundraised, how much was through grant? Like, I would have to...
None of that includes the state grant.
I'm sorry?
None of that includes the state grant.
None of this is state grant, so all this should be fundraised money?
Correct. There's also another $4,000 coming from the 4-H Community Foundation in St. Clair for advancement to states. We apply for a $4,000 every year for it to give us money. They're unsure if they're going to give a grant this year for advancement. May come later on in the year, may not, considering the situation in which they're in.
Okay, and do we get grant money from the state still from?
There is a robotics grant,
99H.
Thank you, 99H. It's basically a match grant. It offsets the cost of the stipends. It has some supply, some registration, but the total of that total grant does not cover the total cost of the program.
Right, that's more, it covers the staff, right? Usually, I think was what I remember being.
It doesn't cover the full stipend, and then when you add the FICA and the retirement on there, it doesn't cover. So the district's Schedule B account covers it. It might have, and it's broken down by like the first FTC, Lego League. I know they don't call it Lego League anymore. There's a new name. But we do apply for it. With more and more schools in the state of Michigan, the pot becomes thinner and thinner because they really haven't significantly increased it. They just spread it out to more schools.
They actually decreased it. It's only 72% of the requested amount this year. Yep. It's like 20% less than it was. So it's less money. So on average, we would get somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000. So to take 30% of that away, that's gone.
And I don't think even we've got the notice that we've got it this year.
We did.
Oh, we did? We just got it.
We just got it, I think, a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Yes, for all students. That's all the robotic programs.
And did we as a district cover states for the robotics team?
No.
You guys used your fundraising money or dollars for the states you just went to?
So the only time that the team has ever asked for money since 2012 in this form was to go to Worlds in 2012 when it was in St. Louis, and then again in 22. And I do not believe that we requested when World's Championship was in Detroit. I think that we got a bus. I think we got a bus that year.
We got a school bus.
No. Other than that, we've been fully funded.
When we went to Detroit,
we would have given food and that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, stuff. I thought we paid the competition fee for
No, we did not get it.
That's right. We just started that.
We did for food, just like we do when
any team goes.
Sports team, anything like that. Yes, we did.
Correct. But yes. The food was covered for Worlds, just like hotels are covered for states and food is covered for states. But the actual competition fee was never.
But we did cover food and hotel for states for the team?
Correct.
I thought we agreed to pay competition fees rather than lodging and expenses for the teams.
That I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember.
Well, we said we were going to send them to. I guess if they needed to stay, we might have. Yeah, I think we might have discussed that as well. Right. But for sure, the competition fee, I thought we were going to cover.
But there isn't necessarily always a competition fee. When you look at what the board, the line item that we put in for, let's say, just for a sporting event, for wrestling, there isn't when they make it to state tournament and go and stay. There is no fee to do that, but we provide help with the lodging.
But there is often a fee when we go to like states for for bowling and such. There's a fee. We have to pay certain fees for certain, and I think you guys have to pay a fee for your competition, correct?
Correct. That's where the
so some I know not all of them do, but some do.
But
I thought when we were discussing last year's budget that we agreed to pay for competition fees. I'm just asking.
The sports that have competition fees, like golf, which is your green fees, and bowling, and I think some volleyball games are fees they pay.
But I'm not talking about that. You're right. There was that
season fees, not.
But I'm talking about a different thing. I'm sorry, I didn't follow that you were talking about regular stuff, if you will. You're right.
Yeah, I wasn't sure
we did say that.
Right.
But this is above and beyond that, and so we put in however many years ago line item, because it used to be many years ago that our wrestling team was going to state finals consistently just about every year, and they always had to come to the board and ask, could you help us? And that's when we first put in the whole line item for competitions, and then a few years ago we added it for academic because we had kids that were on the choir, stuff from, and the DECA team that we sent out to California. We changed, so because we were always giving to athletics, and I think because for the longest time it was always athletics that were doing that higher level stuff, and then now we're rolling into the academics part of it, and so that's an addition, is how I look at it.
The non-sports that have made it to some national competition outside of robotic, we've had art that have made it to the Carnegie Center in New York. Yeah. We've had DECA that went to Florida and California in the past. And then obviously robotic, we had
We the People last year.
We the People last year. So those beyond states, it comes here at this point.
Okay, but we usually just take care of, you guys take care of states. That doesn't.
States are, I would say, most of it are done through those two accounts that Margaret talked about. We have an academic and we have an athletic. Some of it are come through their own internal accounts. They've covered it. If there's a form.
Come to like the board.
No. The states, I sit down with either the dean or the athletic director. We fill out that form, and if it's part of their process, it's just part of the season.
And that's why we did that, so that they didn't have to keep coming back. Now this is the process. Here's the forms you have to fill out, and the line item money is there to do it. Because I think we raised it maybe 3 or 4 years ago, a little bit.
I think so.
Maybe it's longer ago than that, but I know that we did. But if we're asking about fundraising and stuff, and the question, if there's 13,054.95 basically. So that is your account money. That is just for the high school team.
Correct.
HS 515 it says.
That's assigned to them.
And you said that now if you just spent money at states, so is that
it might not have cleared yet.
Hasn't cleared in here. So what is that? What's the balance of that money for? And what is the purpose of that money to? I mean, obviously, Worlds is always the thing that we want to get to. This group, that's your ultimate thing. So what is that account? Is this account, this money, just? So we're going to try to use every day.
I would look at it as a startup. When they start the year in September and October, there are expenses, materials, buying, activities they're going to that they help pay for that out of. And then when the season starts with January, I can't remember which weekend in January it is, in the fall we're applying, either I'm contacting them or one of the persons from Rotary, they need to put a proposal together, get the grant from the Rotary. They're working on all that to build their funds so that when they go to the competition, and basically January on, the funds are there to pay for those competition costs.
So generally, we try and keep somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000 to go towards next year. That's generally where it ends up, because in November, the $6,000 registration fee is due. So that has to be paid in November to even defeat for the year. And then you still have to buy a robot. Robot this year was roughly $4,500. In 2020, it was almost $11,000. It varies depending on game and complexity. So this year we didn't have a lot of money, so we said we would stay simple. So they focused more on simple engineering, simple tasks, which actually worked out better for them. So we didn't spend as much money this year as we normally would have, and then it's another $4,000 to go to state. So it's roughly $15,000 a year to run this program without going to Worlds. So we try and fundraise around $15,000 a year between, and That doesn't include the state grant. So that's with like if we get Ford grants, everybody's pulling out of their grants. Nobody wants
So
to give any money.
did you fundraise your $15,000 this year?
Between fundraising and grants, yes.
Yes. Okay.
And that's supposed to like sustain the program.
Correct.
And then also help with the startup of the program for next season or whatever.
Correct.
Okay.
So we try to stay at least one registration ahead. The team's done that since the beginning.
Sure.
So that way we don't have to go red and go back.
Sure, that makes sense.
And then if the grant money comes in, when the grant money comes in, that would go towards the next year. And then we used to also do extra things during the summertime for off-season for those that wanted to go and learn more, kind of like your summer programs that you guys were talking about. We did the same thing. They would do a competition, mini competition, less teams, less pressure, more fun, more questions. The same mentors are there, so you can ask the same questions to the kids, learn different ways to do the same thing, more engineering information. Great networks. That's what this program really is. The biggest thing is when your husband was on a team and he went to a meeting and he met a guy from Chicago that was on a team in California. And I had a common conversation about something that they did in their spare time to help kids. I mean, it's worldwide. It's a huge network. I see people all over the place that I don't know who they are, and they come say, "Hey, you're that coach," and I'm like, "Yeah," and I'm like in Florida or something like that, and they're like, "I know who you are." I'm like, "Do you really?" So I mean, it's a huge network. It's a ton of opportunities. Most of the coaches work in the industry, and they're always recruiting. So when the students go and talk to another coach, I look at it as a job opportunity.
Sure.
In the colleges, they really like to come in and snipe out of the coach.
Yeah, well, there's a huge future in it, obviously.
The Air Force is one of the biggest ones that like to go, and they'll be at Worlds. They'll be walking around talking to everybody.
Yeah.
Real quick, how many days? I'm trying to find the sheet. How many days you go? 5 days. So
Usually Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We come
5
back on
nights.
Sunday.
It's 5 nights, 6 days.
Yes.
So I would just like to present some context from the board. A couple weeks ago, we did a state of the district where we've been for 10 years. 10 years ago, this group was working out of a barn and piecemealing, in a very positive way, a program that we've now slowly been adding the middle school and the elementary, so with the goal of having a K-12. And I know this is a lot of money. $30,000+ is a lot of money, but when you think about the content, for that many days, you're investing $2,000, divided by 5 is basically about $400 a day to get them down there, to lodge them, to feed them, to enter in there. From a finance perspective, I look at it this way. It's an investment. High school programs are expensive to run, period. EMT, we could have 9 kids in there, and we're paying a $34,000 bill, and that's $3,000 a kid you're paying, with the hope that it's going to open doors and horizons for them, which is what I believe this program does. To put this money is not in a line item currently. There's no robotics world championship line item. However, the budget that you passed in March 11th has a not using $12,000, putting that into fund balance. For those of you who've worked with me for 10 years and Tammy for 7 years, I think 7, we're very conservative. We do not want to go in the hole. We have 4 positions that we budgeted for the full salary, and we said this on March 11th, that we're only going to expend half those salaries this year. So it's projected that we're going to roll up $200,000 into the ending fund balance. This is a one-time, non-structural expense. So it means it's not there next year unless you tell me we want a line item for national competition for any program. It will be something that you've got to reevaluate every year. I am extremely confident that the dollars are there to support this. Where this program is going, I think this is one thing that makes Richmond unique. I don't know any other district that gives even money to states for their athletics and other programs, yet alone to be able to send our kids here to New York, to California for decades, et cetera. So obviously you can see by my passion in this is I support this. I support the kids. I want to make sure we give them every opportunity. I mean, you heard the networking. I'm not a STEM robotics person, but I'm always fascinated just watching it and hearing them. It's just we've done our job. In my eye, this is what it's all about. So I'll let you guys ask any questions you have.
I don't have any questions, but I would like to say thank you so much for coming here tonight and sharing with us all of that experience. That means a lot to me. I appreciate that.
Okay, we're right down the hall if you want to come check it out.
Okay, I might.
We'll be here a little while tonight.
Anybody else have a question?
Thank you.
Okay, we will.
For the future.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We'll be voting on it later in the night if you want to pop down.
We are going tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you guys
We
are
have
down the
to
hallway, I
because
can send you a text if you
Yeah,
want.
we'll be down there. We got to build our crate for our robot to ship for the future.
There's some programming stuff.
Because
lots of
It's
stuff.
next week.
Put it back together from all the damage we received.
Thank you.
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you for taking the time.
Well, I would like to address that because I don't think that's fair to hear that comment. For 4 years, we've had this practice. I put out an email. One person had concerns.
I
That
think we
was you.
should have had a conversation at the board before.
Then, when you do the budget this year, you need to let me know that you're going to end that
We need
practice.
to have a conversation before.
I
we
did.
spend
That's what you're here for. They're on a short time frame.
You've already gone on.
No, first of all, yes, I did authorize to start because it's a short time frame. They moved worlds up and states up, so we have a little bit more time. But your board meeting is today. They have to book it. They have to get things booked and charged and shared.
But we did.
It's no different than what we've done before.
All right, I will make sure that this entire organization knows, don't spend a dime until it comes to the board.
Mr. Walmsley, excuse me, we are done with the conversation. This is exactly what just happened last year with We the People. Those kids made it. That was a last minute thing.
I
If you
understand
just
that.
let me finish.
Go ahead.
If you remember when they competed in January, they didn't make it to the next level, and some things happened, and then they were able to go. When we came and those kids did exactly what these kids did, the same thing. We had already started working
Correct. But it was in
how
the
they were
email.
going to get
Please
there.
let me know right now whether or not you have any issues or
That's what
any
the
extra-
email was this
That was
past
not put in the
week.
email. He just said, I want to let you know that this is happening and we'll be discussing it and I'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting. He
So are
didn't
you
say
saying
if
you
I
didn't-
don't hear anything
got
from
it.
you guys,
Message
I'm
clear.
going to move
You
forward.
didn't
Message clear.
understand.
No, I
that
did
if
not. I did not know that it was going to be moved forward until we got the email or another board member asked a question of whether or not what was going on, and he said the money was already spent. I didn't know.
He didn't say the money
Or
was
been
already
committed.
spent. No,
I'm
he didn't
sorry,
say.
that's been
Don't say
committed.
that because that's not what he said.
It has already
We
been
started
committed.
planning. We started planning.
And of course we should start planning. If they knew their competition was this past weekend, and
They
there was
should
the
have been
chance
planning
that they
for
were
Worlds.
going
This
to
is the
make
second time
it to
they've
the
made it
next
now.
level,
They shouldn't have
then you
waited
have
this
to
long.
at least start thinking about how are we going
And
to
they should have
get
came
them
to us
there.
2 weeks ago then, to our last meeting with this. Then they
Well, our
would have
last
known
meeting
by
was a
then.
month ago.
But they would have. They were. They
didn't
knew
have a
then
meeting.
they might
Remember,
be
we
getting
only had
Worlds.
one meeting
But they
in
knew
March.
then they might be going to Worlds. Is my point. So then they could have talked to us then, and then we would have all had a discussion. And then the discussion would have been had correctly instead of an email sent out where discussion cannot happen.
Nothing
we
was
cannot
done.
have a
Please don't
discussion.
say nothing was done incorrectly. That's just not fair.
I'm just saying there was no discussion able to have
You didn't
before.
You didn't like what happened. Please don't say it was done incorrectly.
It has
because
nothing to
that's-
do with
you
what
just
I
said
liked,
it was done
Margaret.
incorrectly. It wasn't incorrect.
I'm saying that I was under the assumption that we were going to have a chance to talk about it tonight before money was committed. That's all I'm saying.
What do you think just happened in the last
But money was
32
committed
minutes of a
before tonight.
presentation? What? If this
We
board
can agree to disagree,
if
or
this-
you're not understanding what I'm saying.
I understand
so we can
exactly
move on.
what you're
I don't want to
saying.
hold up any more board
But
time. You understand what I'm saying? I'm still not sure why you don't understand what I'm saying, or if you're just trying to keep me going.
I'm not trying to.
Because you disagree with something that I'm saying. If we don't agree, it's okay if we don't agree, Margaret.
It's absolutely okay. But I don't want to say something was done incorrectly, because that's not true. Nothing was done incorrectly. Nothing was done any different than what we're doing. We did have the discussion tonight. And how do we have a presentation tonight, Angela, with amounts of money of what a trip's going to cost if they don't already start looking into what it's going to cost to get them?
I know, and they should have came to us last month with this. That's all I'm saying. So that we could have had a proper discussion, an open board meeting, and that would have been, in my opinion, now this is the second time they've gone to Worlds. Like, this is something they should be anticipating every year. That's all I'm saying. And if they're going to come to us every year, that's also something we as a board need to discuss if we can sustain that regularly.
And I don't disagree. When we talked the other day about this, I don't disagree with that at all. That looking at what can we sustain, what does our budget look, but to me it's two separate things right now. We've got a group of kids who have the ability to go do this, and we're going to hopefully provide them the chance to do it. Moving forward, if we want to have a conversation about it, and I think that we do, based on different things, but that's moving forward. That's when you start.
Okay, but this came up here today, so I need to let the Superintendent Walmsley know that in the future, I would prefer, if the rest of the board does not need that, I would like to have a discussion before it started, before money has been committed. That's
Then
all I'm
I would
asking.
ask you to make a motion in the action item to get the voice of the board.
Or, Angela, I guess my concern is, if you had this concern, did you call
Yes.
Mr. Walmsley and make an
Yes.
appointment?
I emailed him, and he told me you're the only one that has an issue with this.
You're the only one that I've heard from, yes. And then
So, to me, now what do I do? There's no discussion. Like, if we were at a meeting and he brought it to us, and now we can all discuss.
I mean, we
now
could
can
have
all-
denied it. We could deny it tonight if we want to. I mean, I'm just
That's not the question. Nobody's talking about whether or not we're denying this. I'm just asking, in the future, can we have an open discussion?
When? About what?
About something like this, about spending $30,000. And if it's going to happen. Or make sure it's very, very clear in the email that I am going to proceed and commit this money.
Got it.
If I do not hear from
Did
the
anyone else
majority of the board.
understand that that's what was going to happen?
That's always been standard practice. I don't know for the last
I know.
4 years that I've been. If you have a question or you have a
If
concern
there's a
about
time,
something, you
only
send
when
me,
there's
like
a
you did
time
in contact.
Right, only when there's a time constraint, and I didn't think there was one. They just found out late Friday night, and we're here Monday. What's the time
We
constraint?
the people. So, I know you've been involved in robotics before.
Yes, I have been.
So, my son's in robotics at Anchor Bay. They don't know ahead of time, or they can't even project ahead of time whether they're going to go. So Anchor Bay they were on track to go to states, but didn't end up at states. But they were in line that if X number of teams had dropped out, they would go to states, but they wouldn't know that till literally the day before states. And if it was traveling wise, they'd have to go and run to the board and get that approved literally overnight. So to say that these guys could project
that's not
a
the
month
case
ago
with-
that they possibly could go to Worlds, it's a crap.
They were
shoot,
anticipating
literally.
a month ago that they were going to be going to Worlds.
They didn't go last year. That doesn't mean they're necessarily.
They had already had 2 competitions on. They were anticipating a month ago. They had a feeling that they were going to be making it with this last competition.
Well,
and that's fine. I'm just asking if next year, if they're going to regularly do this, I don't understand why it would be an issue to come to us ahead of time rather than through the email and have a presentation like we do for majority of the things. Occasionally, when there are time constraints, correct.
But again,
and there wasn't we had known plenty of time in advance, and I had contacted you before we knew about anything, even if they had made it to states. So obviously, we didn't have much time in between that either.
And correct me if I didn't hear exactly what he said, but there's points and all of that, and they got an alliance and they got points. That's
correct.
What put them into worlds, right? Is that what I understood that? So I guess how do you know that?
You can't predict that another team is.
You can't predict it 100%, but you can anticipate whether or not you may be going, and maybe anticipate that you would have to ask the board for $30,000 and give them some heads up instead of a week before you need it.
Then,
right?
should we add a line item in our budget
But
for
again, that's conversation.
That's what nobody wants to go that far. They just want to keep beating up on me because I have this issue about. No, you're not saying.
Well, even
but because I have an issue about how things were done, that's what it's turned into instead of
what we can do in the future so that this doesn't happen again.
And
So I will tell you this.
I'm not. Wait. I'm talking. Sorry. I'm not beating up on you. We had a great conversation the other night. I'm not beating up on you. I just don't like the comment that something was done incorrectly. That makes my blood boil. To Danielle's point, what happened is what's been happening.
That's how I felt.
That's where I get
been happening for what?
Anytime something comes up,
so what? 2 years ago and this year, then? So 2 times it's happened.
Well, the people came up, and
then
the group goes up.
So one-time things. This is the second time this one's come up, though. So this was kind of like something we knew. Things were going on. I don't know. I guess I just felt we should have been better prepared or knew more about it. And we just spent $25,000 on this club 2 years ago. Now we're going to spend another $34,000 on this club this year. And I think it should have been more of an open discussion about it before, for whatever reason.
Okay.
I agree. Workshop, maybe we can talk
I don't
about line items.
We don't need to do a workshop. We need to, when we talk, excuse me, when we talk budget, and this is something we want to look at, then we'll make sure that we have that conversation here and at the table.
Absolutely.
And then we'll make sure it's on there. I'll make sure I work with Mr. Walmsley here to make sure we put something on there that we want to look at. What are we going to do with teams or groups or clubs or whatever
for national
competitions? Okay?
And also the conversation goes into if it goes into what we've been planning to make us truly K-12 and a class and all of that, that opens up a whole other ballgame of curriculum talk, all of that.
Wow. That's another step to the process. It really is. Okay, any other questions before we move on? Okay, next item on our agenda is our instructional spotlight on the building-based tutoring presentation. Sorry, Mrs. Staples.
Hello again. I'd like you to imagine yourself as a parent getting home from work at 5 o'clock and your child comes up to you with their homework and oh my goodness, it's been so long since you've last seen a problem that looks like that. How are we going to get through this? Likewise, sometimes at the dinner table it becomes something known as homework wars, where we have to kind of struggle with our little ones, sometimes trying to get them to get their learning outside of the school day. So what are some learning opportunities here in Richmond that we are embedding because we know that the school day may be over, but learning never stops? So how do we continue learning for everyone? I'm going to invite our building administrators up here as well. So the first part, I want to come back to this, and I guess I would like to personally thank all of you because a few board meetings ago we discussed cautiously entering into the data hub, and I want you to know because of that decision we were awarded $198,000 so that programs like this can happen for our students. Learning when the traditional school setting is over, they still have the opportunity to be able to learn items from school as well as other things. I want you to look to see the 3 main areas that this grant was written for. Expanded learning time. That is specifically talking about summer school. This grant is going to be able to help support our summer school programs that you just heard about, and you can see that is one of our allocations. The intensive individualized support is the actual building plans that our building administrators each came up with for how their building is going to tackle the extended learning, as well as career pathways. What's so fantastic about this particular grant is that it extends into how can we cultivate and prepare students and form them on these post-secondary and college and career readiness skills. So now, we're also going to talk about a fantastic new program called Practice Education Solutions. It is an on-demand tutoring, and it's really great because it gives you a one-to-one virtual tutor each weeknight. You can do multiple sessions. You can sign up literally just a few minutes before, so maybe you didn't know that as a child or a parent, maybe you didn't know that tonight was the night we're going to struggle with this. So log on and, I have someone there. So you know what? Homework wars are over. We can just enjoy dinner and go to bed. So you do have an individual tutor that's going to be able to help you pick up right where your teachers can be able to leave off. They're actually trained in our standards and things like that, so they actually kind of know. I know sometimes also as parents, sometimes you get back the assignment or that you might have helped with, and you might not have the grade that you thought maybe you deserved. So what's so great about Practice is that these tutors really do have an educational background, so they are able to help facilitate if there are particular ways that the teacher is trying to get your child to explore learning concepts. They're going to be able to tie in nicely with what is happening in the classroom. It's easy to do. It's absolutely free for families, and it's a wonderful service. They can literally scan the QR code, sign right up, and they have a tutor instant. This is just a little bit of the feedback that we've gotten and a little bit of the data that we have from usage so far. You can see the 2-parent feedbacks right here talking about their child's tutor. We have 100% parent feedback of appreciation and how well this is going so far. Once again, we're in the infancy stages of this plan. You can see that math is a very high usage. Math and science. Surprise, surprise. So elementary, you can see in high school is the second bar, which is actually showing the most usage. The second is the elementary, and then we have middle school science also. So one of the things that we're talking about is how to expand people's understanding that we have this offering here in the district. So there'll be more communication as we're rolling out this tutoring plan. Right.
Do you want me to wait to the end or?
Oh no, go ahead. I'm going to bring it up to Ms. Borwick's portion for her. Go ahead.
It's not, I don't think. Okay. But so 100% participation. I know you said that's in its infancy stage. Mm-hmm. So what is 100%? Is it 10 people, 2 people?
Yeah. So far we've had had 12 users so far to date. Okay. With 100% full on, yep, I absolutely loved it, 100% rating within that 12 so far. And that's just the very preliminary data for introducing this new program.
Awesome.
As well as we have very exciting things happening at each building tailored around the goals that you saw through the 23G. So, do you have any other questions before you head into what each building's plan is? No. Exciting stuff. All right. Well, let's bring it up for Ms. Borwick.
All right. Obviously, I want to thank Mr. Walmsley and Ms. Staples because I think the on-demand tutoring from a high school perspective is very beneficial. We tried to come up with some ideas from a tutoring standpoint of what works at the high school. So I can't take the credit for this. Ms. Zabo came up with the idea. We did a focus on the SAT. Obviously, with switching to the digital platform, we all have a lot of questions, so we're going to figure it out tomorrow. But as you can see up here, obviously who it was targeted towards would be our 11th grade students. What it was accessing the digital test prep via Khan Academy and College Board accounts. The takeaways they did receive, as you can see in the bottom left there was an SAT Prep Plus book they received. And obviously moving forward, like we said, just kind of learning this and what's going to work with our high school students and going through this process tomorrow, I think we'll have a better understanding of how to accommodate our students' needs. And obviously building upon that and setting up additional meetings for next year as to how we can support our students during this process. With this program, the students obviously receive the book.
But there's articles, video lessons, exercises on how to answer questions. There's a variety of things that allow our students to get that practice time in if they utilize it. So it's something that we'll definitely build upon. What do? I hit next here? I want to be on it. So one of the things that we're talking about at the high school level is actually creating a year-long scope of vignettes that students can opt into going. If, for example, like we just hosted the FAFSA night, so that was a grant, so that would be something that we could use through here, where this is going to be a FAFSA night. Strengthen your essay writing for SAT, show up on this day. Strengthen your heart of algebra, show up on this day. So we're planning vignettes that are for post-secondary career explorations. Specifically, thank you for this, also for the post-secondary component, as well as being able to get them on-demand tutoring in the subjects that they are struggling in.
And this next slide just kind of breaks down, it kind of shows the students. It was just a demonstration of what they see when they go into Khan Academy, and kind of helps them with mastering those topics. I know it's a little bit difficult to read, but it shows them, obviously, some of the foundations. And this specific question was with algebra. So the students seemed to find it very useful. We had maybe 12 or 15 students stay after for the first cycle, and obviously just kind of gain a better understanding of what this is going to look like for them. So, questions for me?
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say I really appreciate this. Ms. Zabel, whoever's idea it was with the SAT thing, when my daughter graduated or whatever, was in 11th grade 7 years ago, it was a long time ago, but I had to pay a private tutor for math because she hadn't had math for like 3 years. She took a blow off senior math class, of course, for her to do well. So that is really hits home for me. So awesome. Great idea. I love it.
Thank you. I'll pass that along. I don't take it rather for
So for our tutoring, we decided we tried doing a really targeted program. And as I've mentioned to you earlier this year, our 7th grade students right now are our COVID legacy students. They're the ones who are struggling the most academically and in some cases socially. And so we wanted to target 7th grade first with both ELA and math. We decided to try doing 6-week cycles, which I think was a good amount of time. I think especially for the kids because it had a beginning and an end. Getting kids to participate was a struggle. I don't know if it was the time of year. I don't know if I don't know what the barriers were, but there were some barriers in trying to get kids here. So Mr. Knight and I are constantly trying to figure out different ways that we can get kids. We have a lot of really great after-school programs happening at the middle school, which I think kids didn't want to miss out on, and their parents were trying to get them to go to tutoring, and it just was that battle at home that we just didn't have any control over. However, what we did see was pretty successful, and we are in the midst of starting another cycle on the 18th of April just to get us through for the rest of the school year. So we're really excited. So I have some things that I can show you, just some for ELA Cycle 1. We did have 3 students who attended consistently. Miss Turpin was our ELA tutor, if you will. She also does our ACRI, which is our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade pretty intensive reading inspection.
Remember her last month from the literacy ambassador.
And so they did a lot of focus on authors' purpose and structure. Those are a lot of the questions that they get asked during MSTEP, which is starting this week. And so they used their inferring skills. And then we did kind of like a perception. We did it's hard to do a pre and a post test for them because of the way that Ms. Turpin instructed was more kind of picked up where they were leaving off in the classroom, so it was just targeted on what they were already learning. But we did do a perception survey, and the kids, they liked it. They enjoyed tutoring, they enjoyed being there, but again, we only got 3 kids going consistently. For math, we had a few more students. That was Miss Walla and Mrs. Crampton. And they started going over, just hitting hard, some of the deficits that we could actually identify with our NWEA scores, our winter NWEA scores. The next cycle that we have, though, is open to all grade levels identified by the same 3 teachers, along with Mrs. Schlehuber, who was also on the ELA cycle. Her focus was a little bit different than Miss Turpin's. But we'll have the 4 of them again, and we'll be able to target a few more students. Hopefully, ideally, we'd like each group to have 6. Each teacher to have 6 students max, or even 8 if we had that interest. But we are competing with other after-school activities. So we're hoping to get more students. The teachers already have them identified. Information is going to be going out for the next cycle, and we're hoping that next year we can use our data that we have this year to try and hone in on some different ways and more creative ways to get kids to participate. But what we've done and what we've seen, the kids are really excited. They really like the math too, which to me was very strange. It's not my thing. But they loved it, and I thought that was great because there were 2 really dynamic teachers, obviously, who were helping to instruct it. So they enjoyed it. So and we hope that we can see the fruits of our labor as we move into this testing cycle. So
Thank you.
And lastly,
all right, so we are excited at the elementary. We've been up and rolling since October and haven't stopped. So it has been excellent. I want to thank the board and Mr. Walmsley for bringing this. When it was kind of, you have this amount of money and how are we going to make this happen? The sky was the limit. And before I go on, I just have to think, like Mr. Walmsley spoke about earlier, we can have all of these things, but if we don't have the bodies or the staff that is willing to, yes, they get, paid, but it's not about that. It's, they've taught all day long and we're all tired. And for them to really want to do that for their students, Monday and Wednesday, every single week consistently, I just think is really just dedication. So I just wanted to thank the staff members who have been doing it the whole time, Mr. Pedri, Mrs. Van Scooter, Mrs. Brand, Miss Walters, Mrs. Dorsey, Mrs. LeGroy, and Mrs. Mansfield. So that's our tutoring team. The tutoring why is obviously to fill in the achievement gaps. So we used our NWEA data to look at where our holes were and say, is ELA or math looking like it's, which one do we need probably a little more strengthened, and we chose ELA based on the data. So our students meet Monday and Wednesday an hour after school, and they meet for cycles of 6 weeks at a time, and then we look at where they're at and if we want to re-invite the same students based on the skills and if they've mastered what we're looking for. The really neat thing is that all of our students who are re-invited back are coming back. So they're enjoying the time, like it's engaging, they want to be there, and then the teachers are also signing up to teach it again. So we've had great success in the consistency. Sorry here. Okay, so here's just a little picture of some sight word twister, things like that. Research tells us that students at the elementary level have an attention span about 1 minute per their age, and that is really the reality. So it's really important for us to get them up and going and moving, and so the teachers have really done a great job at that. So here's a little picture of ways that they've done that. So as you can see, it's very small group instruction. It's 5 students to 1 adult, so that's really the sweet spot where you can get the best bang for your buck. Can you help me go back one? I don't think. Oh, yeah, I guess it's not going to show what I wanted to. Yeah, but if the words aren't on it, that's okay. I'll read it. Okay. So I have something Mr. Pedri wanted me to mention here because I said they're the experts. So you guys are doing it every day. So he said in tutoring for kindergarten, they began focusing on letter naming. Then they moved into letter sounds, and now they are working on building words. He said, we have great student participation, awesome parent involvement, and regularly share the amazing growth in data with our parents. Mrs. Van Scooter and myself are proud of the growth and the confidence that the kids have gained building these skills. So that's something we're finding is the confidence in the classroom is really also increasing, which is very important. So now what? So like I said, every session we look at the data and then we build upon the results to see if students need to be re-invited or if we talk to the classroom teacher and look at data to see if we need to invite new students. So it's kind of an ongoing fluid program. It's going well. Thank you. I hope we get to keep doing it. My plug.
All right. Well, thank you. So we have a lot of great, exciting things. Imagine going home and having your child say, "My homework's already done," and mean it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item on our agenda is our Board Policy 3304, faculty usage. Mr. Vidal and Mr. Trent.
So as they're coming up here, the purpose of this is to look at our current policy, how we use our facility use. The last time we looked at this was, I believe, in 2016-17 school year. Looking at some of the rates that we've charged, they have not gone up since the 16-17 school year, though our costs have gone up. You know, for instance, in 16-17 we were charging $15 for custodian, all-in cost. That is nowhere near what they're making now from the in-house. As well as any of the impacts of any changing the fee or facilities process. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Thiel and Mr. Trent.
So we didn't change much of the group categories. So pretty much the same. Group 1 is the school organizations that are not charged the facility use fee. Group 2 are we direct ties to the district, so it's a reduced fee. And then Group 3 is just our normal. Group 4 is our for-profit organizations, advanced studios.
Yeah. Group 2 is not charged a facility fee. Those are the district ties, the ones with the district ties. The nonprofits are the ones that aren't tied to the district are the ones that receive that reduced rate. None of that's changed from previous.
And the example of that is?
So direct ties to the district would be like a group that's got our threshold is 75% Richmond students.
TAFL.
So TAFL.
PTO.
AYSO. So
booster clubs.
Yep.
So this is where we made some of the changes for the custodial fees. We changed it to $30 an hour. It was at $15, I believe. And we changed some of the language for group number 3.
Yeah, so the $30 an hour, where that comes from is that's the time and a half rate for a general maintenance custodian. So based on availability of staff, what custodian in particular we're assigning to that group, that makes sure that we're covered for that event. We're not taking a loss on a facility rental. For the nonprofit organizations, actually for both groups, it includes the setup time, and the teardown time.
Generally a half hour before and after the event.
Yeah. And our system in FMX allows the requester to designate how much time they anticipate for setup and for cleanup.
This is $30 an hour as well for the for-profit organizations. One change we made here was instead of just having $100 an hour for the auditorium, what we saw when we looked at other districts was sometimes the weekend events they would charge a little more, so we changed that rate to $150 per hour for Friday and Saturday, and we raised the rates for the technician from $20 to $30 an hour, and that covers the hourly rate for that employee and firefighter retirement. And the rest of the rates all stayed the same. They're pretty much on par with what other districts are charging right now.
Yep. So the stadium, the lights, that went up to $50 an hour, and that's consistent with what we saw with some other districts. The one that we struck from there was that the field shall be cut, maintained, and striped according to the agreement. If anybody runs a lawnmower on that field, we'll have a lot bigger issues. And it shouldn't be painted either. So we wanted to make sure that was in there and nobody tries to do that. The rate for the practice fields, now these are the grass areas we've designated for practice. So behind the high school, the soccer practice fields behind the middle school and by the elementary school, the baseball fields and the softball fields. That rate we bumped up to $75 an hour again. Looking at some of the other districts around the area, that's what they charge. The one last designation in there, because according to our current facility use agreement, anybody that wants to use the fields has to go through the district's contractor to have those fields striped. One of the things that I proposed we added was allowing groups that desire to stripe and line those grass practice fields. Again, we're not talking the stadium field, but allowing them to request that and that be approved through either Mr. Walmsley, Mr. Thiel, or myself. The rationale behind it was, again, looking at some of those groups with ties to the district, and again, talking how building programs and how people are programs. What I envision with this is AYSO comes up and they says, hey, we'd like to stripe the fields this way for our games. We've got a dad that runs the paint thing. I meet with that dad. Yep, we're good. Stripe the field. Or if Little League wanted to use the JV baseball field for some of their upper level games, and they've got a group of parents that are good at striping and lining fields, somebody that we feel confident will do it correctly. And then again, if there's any damages to the facility, that's covered in the rest of the facility use. But looking at ways that we can get people from the community on campus, around our things, around our facilities, so that those Little League parents become high school parents.
Now, would this include, say, the PTO who uses the field for field day?
So the PTO would fall under that Group 2. So like you guys aren't charged to use it, but are you talking the striping?
But
Well, we wouldn't do anything to the...
Yeah, right.
Right, so that doesn't fall into...
But we're the ones, right?
The PTO.
The PTO does request the time off. Or
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
If it's
the
a
facility
PTO.
use.
Yeah, and we, like with the PTO, we don't charge you guys for that. But like if you said, hey, we want to put some lines out on one of the practice fields for this thing
Right.
we're doing.
I know historically we haven't used the concession building, but this year we actually are planning to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So that is also fair game.
Free of charge.
I mean,
Yeah.
bring your own products. We're
Right.
cleaning it. We're not. You know,
The concession building is the district's.
Correct.
The stuff in the concession belongs to the athletic boosters. So if you want a hot dog roller, you have to bring your own hot dog roller because
Right.
the athletic boosters do not allow outside agencies to use their equipment. Thank you. That's where
And this was a conversation that Mr. Walmsley and I had with the boosters, and TAFL was the group, and we worked out how the use of that concession stand, because again, the building is the district's, but the equipment is boosters, so we worked out how that would look. The concession stand is one of the items that through the facility use they can request to use, and when those requests come in to use that, I make sure that we're coordinating with boosters about their equipment, what the plan is for those types of things.
So, for instance, the concession stand in the winter season is oftentimes used for storage because the interior concession isn't large enough. And for the fall season, sometimes they use the interior for storage. So it's coordinating what you need in that concession because things might need to get moved out, stored in another place while you use it. So that's that personal meeting that we have.
Yep.
So then, if you're like the TAFL program or whatever, and you don't need any striping or any of that, you're just using some grassy area out there. So then you have to pay the $75 an hour, or no, they would be in Group 2, right?
In Group 2.
Okay.
Yep.
As long as 75% of them are Richmond kids,
Yeah, right.
which they have Since we
always
put this in 15, 16, or 16,
Yeah.
17, they've always had it at least 75%.
I remember that with the RGFA. So okay, and then so then would they have to pay the $30 charge for the custodian?
The only time we've ever, I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah,
The only time
so with those groups with the ties to the district, a lot of times what we look at is how big is the event, where is the event at, and we kind of assess if we will need a custodian.
Right.
So like when the TAFL did the football field, they had a group of parents that was in charge of the garbage pickup and making sure everything was clean.
Sure.
If that's all coordinated and we feel strong that yes, it's going to happen, then we wouldn't charge them. But if there is an issue that they have, then the next time they use it, we would put a custodian there.
I gotcha. So like if like a more senior softball team from Little League wants to use the field, and they have somebody to stripe it usually and all that, or chalk it, whatever, then their costs, they wouldn't have, as long as they had 75%.
There would be zero cost. If they are a group 2 and they've got somebody that we feel confident can stripe the field, and my litmus test for it is, can you leave the field in better shape than when you got there?
Gotcha.
And there are a lot, I can speak to some of the people I've gotten to know in the past year in those organizations. There are a lot of people that are passionate about making those areas look as good as possible. So yes, if we had
75% or more participate, we're Richmond students, of course.
Yep.
And
they've got, hey, we've got a tune-up game before one of our tournaments.
Yeah.
We've got a dad with a chalker and chalk, and I meet with that person. Yep.
Then they don't have any fee.
Correct. And now, the other groups that are not Group 2 or Group 1 or Group 2, those are the ones, hey, we're a big Fed ball conglomerate. We want to use the JV baseball field. That's where I would say, okay, here's our facility use. This is our district contractor. I will coordinate with them to take care of the field.
So like if somebody wanted to do like a dodgeball type tournament thing.
Technically, they could rent the facilities and use. There's an insurance that there's required of them to have.
Sure.
But yeah.
Okay.
The intent also is with our Group 1 and Group 2, those are a lot of times our community residents, so you know them.
Right.
Oftentimes, Group 3 and Group 4 may not have any ties to the community, so we want to make sure our facilities are protected, whether it's even just a custodian there for cleanup and make sure it's put back.
So that things are locked up.
Things are locked up and so forth.
Is that it?
I believe so.
We have more documentation that
It's all the
shows
same
things.
thing.
It's just in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing I want to say too, with the new facility use system last year at FMX, with Mr. Thiel and I, he's done a great job setting that system up, and it makes the facility use requests really easy to do, really detailed. We can keep a log of where we're at in the steps for approval. It allows for easy invoicing for those outside groups, so it's been really easy to work with.
How do we determine two groups want the same thing at the same time?
We just flip a coin.
Right.
No,
Start with one. Are they two groups in Group 2?
So
Group 1 is priority.
Yep.
Group 2, Group 3, in that is the order, or that order. But if you have 2 in Group 2, that's where we got to look at logistically and looking at time.
Yep. Gotcha.
But
Yeah,
our school groups have the first priority.
I believe in the actual board policy, it has that.
I think it does.
Priority order.
Yeah.
Yep. And that approval order hasn't changed.
It pretty much adds it to the calendar straight away.
It does.
When you put
it's
it
sweet.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were able to connect the FMX system to our new website calendar, so once it's approved, it automatically populates on the calendar.
I believe is what it does. It syncs nightly. I think that's how it works.
So people can see it.
People can see what's going on.
Like if I wanted April 18th, I can see right away that it's not available.
What you'll do And I haven't done it from a requester side, like an outside requester, but I know when I've done it, just putting my events in for athletics, I go to schedule something and there's already something scheduled there, it stops me and it says scheduling conflict, and it tells me what event conflicts with it, which is great because then I identify what games need to be changed.
Right.
Angela had a question
Sure.
about, do all teachers know to fill out the facility use?
Yes, they are constantly reminded about facility use, about FMX, and about, because the work orders run through it as well.
Right.
So that we've got a lot of teachers that are very good at putting work orders in.
So what about
The rule of thumb basically is from 3 o'clock on, outside of your school day, if you want to use our facility, it's got to go in FMX.
So
that you can plan cleaning
that's
schedules.
why I wanted to make sure they were making it easier
they're
for you
doing.
to be able
I mean,
to kind of
just today, Ms. Shagna had the NHS meeting in the media center, so I knew to tell Dar, hey, we need to make sure after 3:15 the library, the media center gets cleaned. So we've got a ton of Schedule Bs and clubs that get put right into FMX by the teachers.
So how would an outside organization, or even some people, I guess, in Group 2, get to do that, like request a facility?
So when they go to the website, they're directed to the facility use system, and they create an account, and they're initially created as a community member, which means all they can do is create schedule requests. They can't do work orders.
So you get the big picture, and then right below it says like transportation, student information, parent. There's a couple boxes. One of them is facility use. You click on that. I believe it takes it right now to the FMX page.
Yep.
We're going to have it go to a page that kind of defines this first, and then from there go to the FMX so that this is in writing ahead of time.
So then what they're able to do is on their account, they're able to put their organization name, their contact email, their phone number, all the way through that. So then we get an email that says new FMX account created for John Smith. And I pull it up and it's John Smith, Richmond Little League. Okay, this is what we should be expecting here.
So last question for me, I think. So if you have a group that's like, I understand the priority, but let's say you do have two groups that are both in the number 2 group, okay? Yeah. And you have an organization or a team or whatever that has a better, I guess, manager or coach who's like quickly requested all of these, all of these days and all of this time, and then you get somebody that's like, hey, can I get 1 or 2 of these days a week? Like, how do we do that?
Yeah. Hasn't come up per se.
Don't put it on the spot.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just feel like that might be, you know what I mean? Like I can see that happening, and if you can't necessarily, I get like maybe first come first serve, but if you have, I don't know, is that fair?
We have done things in the past where we've asked some of those people that block out all the time, like, hey, do you really need this slot, or is there? Can I move you back just a little bit so I can get this one in here?
Okay, so you do try to work something out.
And sometimes we have people who block on that. I want 2 hours.
Yeah.
The reality is they may only need an hour, and so they may have to adjust the schedule. That's where that conversation. Okay, let's only book you an hour because we can get another group in. So
okay, all right. So we're working with those.
We work with those outside groups. We work pretty actively.
I don't think any group that's put in that we've automatically right at the top said no. Mm-hmm. There may be groups that Preston might have questioned or Jamie, and then the 3 of us have a conversation, kind of walk through, especially if they're an outside group we've never dealt with before.
Oh, right, sure, right.
To make sure T's are crossed and I's are dotted.
Something we can handle.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I said that was my last question, so I want that to be my last question.
The man of call.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Jamie, you staying? Okay, our next item on our agenda is the Educational Assistance Program.
So we're going to do this in 2 parts. Jamie's going to talk to you about the program, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the implications for Richmond and where we are, because the deadline is coming up for this Thursday for submission. So I'll let Jamie talk about the program.
So this is the student loan repayment program. It was passed with the school aid budget. $225 million are allocated to the program. The purpose is to assist with educators' student loans. It's supported by most school districts and most ISDs. What it is essentially is that we are responsible for generating a monthly payment up to $200 for any staff member that qualifies. So this is backdated to October 1st. So once we submit for the grant, they'll get payments all the way back to October 1st per month. But we're not really sure when this money is going to be distributed. They said maybe around July, so I'm kind of waiting to hear. Some districts that qualify, it's called Band 6. Those employees can get up to $400 per month payment, but that is a district of
high frame reduced ones.
Yeah.
High at-risk population.
At risk, yep.
We don't qualify.
Right.
So so MDE kind of put the burden on us to identify which employees qualify for this. So I sent out a survey. We had about 23 responses. And that outlines some of the requirements. So they have to be employed 32 hours per week. They're currently making payments towards their student loans. They have to be enrolled in the Federal Service Loan Forgiveness Program with an eligible loan type. So the eligible loan type is an income-driven repayment program, and they have to work directly with pre-K to grade 12 students. That is also up to the district's discretion on who those people are. So,
excuse me, this is just teachers. Is this what you were telling us? Like what the school counselor doesn't qualify?
When you look at the eligible, it leaves it up to the district that if you can, in essence, connect them to direct students. And there's no clear definition from the state, there's no guidance from the state, then yes, they would qualify. So an example that would be questionable is, kindergarten teacher, no issue, they got kids in front of them. An instructional coach whose primary role is to work with teachers, but do they work with kids in some fashion? Renee will make the argument they do in some fashion.
School districts have to determine.
We have to determine.
There's no definition of that. We have to determine who our standards are.
Yep, so this kind of goes over the requirements here again. It has to be an income-driven loan. They cannot change it after they've already applied. After we've already applied for the grant, it has to be all this has to be in place before we apply for the grant on the 11th. These are the examples of eligible participants. So educators, counselors, social workers, psychologists, reading specialists, librarians, and school administrators who directly work with students in a district or intermediate school district. So that's kind of what Brian was talking about, with the discretion is up to the district, and we've gone us, Brian and me, Tammy, and Rick, kind of going around and around about to see who we think would qualify. So.
There is some question and answers that the state has published, but there are more questions than there are answers.
They're very vague responses. It's not very helpful. But this is the loan payment requirements. So that the federal loan under that payment plan I was talking about. This is kind of where we're having some questions as well. So if they're in deferment and they have a $0 required payment per month, we should still submit for them, but we don't really know how that money is to be distributed or when. There's some more guidance we're kind of waiting on. So we're going to be including those people as well. And so this is a list of the district responsibilities, which is very small. But so we're applying on behalf of the participants. The grant is due by April 11th. We must ensure that participants meet all the 5 eligibility requirements. The district determines what working directly with students and ensuring employment of 32 hours per week. We have to, it's up to our discretion. District administers the program for the participants. The district receives the money via state aid payment and then passes the funds along to participants in equal monthly payments. With the exception of the first payment, which is going to be backdated to October. And then the district will set up accounting and record-keeping systems in accordance with auditing and monitoring standards. The district keeps excess payment monies on behalf of participants in case their loan payments change. So if we're allocated $200 per month per employee and their payment's only $150, we have to set that money aside and then send it back to the state at some point, which I don't think they told us about yet, have they? The district keeps excess payments and sends it back. Districts will receive the maximum monthly amount for each participant and then pass along as an amount equal to that participant's loan payment. So it's also up to us and the participants to monitor if their loan payment changes or if they pay their loan off, and they're required to.
Wait, the school district has to monitor all that?
Mm-hmm. No, that's right. This whole thing, I'm like.
So in essence, like we do a reimbursement that Tammy's office processes all the time. You spend $30, you submit your receipt, and you get $30.
Okay.
They're going to pay their bill, they're going to submit their payment, and then we're going to turn around and issue them a check.
That's a check.
Pretty much, yes. So we're a small district. I mean,
Well, we have to keep track if their loan amounts change. That's what you just said?
Well, they're required to submit it to us, but we're hoping we can just receive monthly statements from each employee.
So in other words, if their loan pays, I'm paying $200, and all of a sudden I'm probably getting to some point my loan, and maybe my loan drops to $175. We're only giving them the $175 reimbursement. We can't give them the $200. So they have to submit to us something, a statement, their prior year statement showing that they made a payment. Their payments are on time. They're not in back pay or what's the word I'm looking for. They're behind their payment. So
we have to do this?
Well, as a district, we don't have to apply for this because it's required. Let me let Jamie finish this, and then that's more of the conversation.
That's more or less which sums it up. But it's essentially up to us to monitor and begin that process.
So to start the process, as Jamie said, Jamie surveyed the staff. We received 23 respondents back. Of that 23, based on their initial response, some of them do not qualify because either they're not signed up for a loan, an income-driven payment, they're not signed up in the federal public service loan, so that automatically makes them not eligible. The legal guidance we got from TRUM and Metro Bureau, who's an organization of Tri-County school districts, Collins and Blaha sent another legal guidance to those members, so we got it from Collins and Blaha as well as TRUM. They both said, do not send this unless you have a letter of agreement, because this is wages, hours, and working conditions for your employees. And the unions have to sign off that they're agreeing to it. Currently, as we sit today, just one, right? We have a letter of agreement with our Administrators Association. The MEA/Local 1 who represents the teachers has stated that they do not believe LOA, letter of agreement, is needed because this is a state legislative directive. Mandate. And we have not, it's the same representative who also does our MEA early childhood, so it's the same argument they're making for that one. So we only have one LOA. So our position is going to be is if we don't have this by the deadline, based on our attorney's guidance, then we're only submitting for the RAA, the Administrators Association, which not even all of them qualify.
Do they have the ability to redo their loans into that type of a loan?
They could between now and whenever the next cycle opens. So at the end of this cycle, April 11th, they're going to take a snapshot and say, this is how many districts applied, give everybody $200 of that $225 million, how much is left? Now, they may open another cycle because they have until 25 to spend that allocation from the state. So they might open this again. So before that next one opens, you can get in to meet these 5 criteria. So for that, we were just looking at it today, and like just for the enrolled in a federal public service loan forgiveness program, 2, 4, 6, 8 of them are not enrolled. That automatically makes them ineligible for this program.
That's crazy. Like, I know because I'm in it, and I've got, after 120 payments, they wipe out your student loans. So why would you not be in that public
I know
forgiveness?
Jamie has sent out stuff to staff. I know we think it's gone out.
Is it only certain types of loans, though? Because I know for nonprofit, after 10 years, you can get it wiped out, but it has to be a particular type of loan in order for them to do that.
We're talking about the school district, so we're talking about educators.
Right.
And every educator qualifies.
Right.
For it.
So did you do it initially, Danielle, when you set it up, or
The second
that?
somebody told me that if I made 10 years of on-time payments that I could get the rest wiped out, I signed up. Yeah, why would you not?
Yeah.
You know? And then, of course, you do income-based because it's a way lower payment than trying to split up your loans into 10 years and paying them all off. But, I don't know. It's just, I'm a math person.
So,
It's crazy.
I guess what I'm anticipating, and it's just an anticipation, is we're going to submit for those that we have an LOA for, based on the guidance from Troon, the guidance from Garrett Collins and Blaha. Some districts have LOAs, some districts do not. Some districts in Macomb County do, some districts do not. Looks like a lot of Oakland County schools have LOAs. There was a survey done by Metro Bureau.
So if we're doing that, because it's on the agenda for an action item, we would be voting to do it just based on present information. Is that what we're
You're
saying?
voting to approve the LOA that is in the packet, which is from Troon Law.
Okay.
It's the one they sent out to all their, with the idea that if the EA came back to us tomorrow and said, okay, we'll do it, but we want to change this paragraph, so long as the attorney signs off on it, we would do it. Our goal is to get as many people this money as possible. But there are some things that protect you in that LOA. Like, for instance, one of them is you can't file grievances on this. If we have a member who doesn't turn in receipts or doesn't turn in stuff, we can't just give them money.
Right.
The auditors in Tammy's office got to show what did you pay so we can reimburse. We don't want to be dealing with frivolous issues. So if we don't get it on this round, I'm guessing there will be there'll be another round that maybe we can work between now and the next round to get them the next round. Get a chance again.
But this resolution, this vote, if the next round, that doesn't matter, that includes the next round, or is this a resolution for just this round?
The way the resolution or the LOA says is it allows us to use this LOA if money is available in the.
So if the teachers union decides, they'll go with it, this resolution covers that. It's not, we don't have to go do it again.
Correct.
Because we're going based on this letter of agreement.
Yeah, the only thing we're physically changing, that's why there's 3 of them in your packet, is the name of the bargaining units that are listed there.
Okay.
They're exactly the same resolution.
Are they set to give us an answer soon, or how long have they had this to sit on?
Oh, they've had it for a long time. At least a month. At least probably a month. They sent us it wasn't a LOA, it was one of the forms that the teachers have to sign is an agreement, basically. They retweet the agreement, not the LOA.
So, I'm sorry.
No, so they've had it for a month. We've had conversations back and forth, but their position, at least local one, our rep's position is this is a legislative directive that they don't have. So I look at it, and I guess from the attorney's perspective, I cannot enter into a contract or compensate a teacher outside of their collective bargaining unit. In essence, this is not spoken about in their bargaining unit at all. So I'm giving teachers up to $2,400, $200 a month for 12 months of a compensation or reimbursement that's not even spoken about in their contract. That's the position of the attorney. That's why you need to negotiate, because it's a compensation.
Falls under para, I think.
Yeah, para.
If I was a teacher, is there any drawbacks to doing this?
Yeah.
Drawback?
Yeah, like
It doesn't. You don't get tax. Taxes comes in at 5,000. I think is what our auditor said. I think 5,000.
Once we approve, we have to approve another resolution at some point to make that possible.
Yeah, that's the
That's the education.
Drawback is the union doesn't want to do it.
So from a teacher, no, it's you turn in your basically your receipt in the very simplistic form, and then we give you a check for your payment.
Do they have to count that as income though on their taxes next year?
Nope, it's a reimbursement. It's not taxable up to, I think it's $5,000. So the maximum our teachers are going to get is $2,400 because our district only qualifies up to $200 a month for 12 months.
So can the teachers, can they sign the letter or without that? Can we give them the letter or no? Is that something that we just can't do?
The union saying you don't need that letter of agreement.
I understand the unions
to do it.
We sign on by the union president.
Yeah.
And
it does.
And
Okay, that's
the director.
The individual teacher, you're saying?
The LOA is signed by the union leadership, or MEA, Tim and Cheryl.
That's the whole time.
The individual teacher has to sign a certification that they didn't lie, they're going to provide the documentation. They individually have to sign that. And that's the documentation that between Jamie and Tammy's office collecting and processing each.
So I could be a teacher on that list and qualify, but not be able to get reimbursements this round.
Yes.
Because that letter's not.
Correct.
Yes.
Because the union says by the union. Yeah. Leadership or whatever.
Says no.
Okay. And I would say the guidance isn't you should have an LOA. It's you need to have an LOA.
Okay. So that we have two separate attorneys.
Troon Law and Collins and Blau.
Not saying that's not a suggestion. They're saying that this is, obviously everything's a suggestion. We do what we want, but they're saying this is highly recommended.
Correct.
So I know from our perspective, this is the criteria in order to be eligible for it. But then they get the letter, if you do this and you sign up for this, then A, B, C, D, E also, right, on the backside. Have you seen that letter that they would then receive for receiving these funds and what that looks like to them?
For the teacher?
Yeah.
It's going to they're just going to get a Richmond check for basically $200.
There's nothing.
They're going to turn in showing proof that they paid their loan, and then Jamie's going to send it to Tammy's office, and then Trish is either going to cut them a paper check or we're going to put it through Angela and it will appear on their check as another $200 a month, up to $200 a month.
So this is a monthly reimbursement thing. It's not like we wait till the end of the year or whatever.
Well, this year, because this backdates through October, the first check is probably going to be 10 months of your past one, and then the law says you're supposed to issue it monthly.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, and then
it would be better to me if we just do one check, turn in your paperwork, we issue.
So that's my next question. So then, are we given any funds from the state or whatever to kind of run that? I guess Tammy and Trish, whoever's doing that, it's just added job for
unfunded mandate.
Unfunded mandate.
Don't you love it?
Oh, okay, that's what happened.
I think there would have been more support, and this is just my editorial. Nobody said that. If these $225 million funds were just basically said, how many teachers do you have in the state of Michigan? Divide it by that, and everybody gets that check.
Right.
I think that would have been more support across the state by various organizations, but that's not the way they did it. They chose to do it this way. Why, I don't know the politics behind it, but this is the way.
I guess it loves to work out, it sounds like.
A one-year program then?
If there's money left over after this first round,
it's all the way through 2025.
we can apply for the second round.
So those teachers who don't, you said some of them don't qualify because they don't have those kind of loans.
They haven't signed up for
what was the other one? They had to sign up.
They haven't signed up for the.
So can they do that rather quickly?
They
It
should.
could take weeks though to get approved.
Income driven takes
Yeah.
like 6 to 8 weeks to get approved for income driven.
Our recommendation is if I was them,
Go apply now.
to apply, get it, so if there's a second round, you're ready to go.
Right.
Because
That's what I was going to say.
it's written into the law, those criteria, that you have to have those. Otherwise, that's not a district discretion.
Or if you're not getting paid until, June or July, like you said, in theory, they could have that all processed if they started tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, there would have to be in it when we submit for the grant.
Oh, but it has to
We
be
as the district grant too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
all of
It's
that
not when they
information
just
has to
first
be.
administered.
Yeah.
So we're giving the union till Wednesday at 4 o'clock to get an LOA, other than the administrators who we have. Otherwise, we'll just submit for what we have for this first round.
So when is the deadline for us to submit it, though?
Thursday the 11th by 11:59 p.m.
So we're giving them till Wednesday.
Wednesday, so that we don't know.
Wednesday.
We're making an
Time.
assumption that the upload is going to go smoothly. That
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Right.
there's always systems. So
What, like, do we have like a certain time, like Wednesday, end of
end of the day, end of the day. I think we said 4
You said 4
o'clock.
o'clock.
Okay.
And you're going to give SATs and work even and stuff. Oh, no, that's
Right.
But that's not for the individual
No,
teacher. That's for the union
still
leadership.
more paperwork and things that need to
Oh,
be
yeah,
done that
yes,
day.
yes.
What a big crash in our computers. Okay, anybody else have any other questions? Thank you for sharing. Next item on our agenda is our budget discussion. Ms. Walmsley. Has it gotten cold in here?
It has.
Thank you.
Sure has.
All right, Tammy, we ready? All right. I need to switch the computer. Would you switch it back over there on that for me, Jimmy? Thank you. All right, so this will be our first conversation about the Budget 25 discussion. So we're going to start like we've done, looking at enrollment projections. Then I'm going to talk about assumptions being made at this point from revenue and expenses. Tammy's going to talk about what budgets we know from the state. And then we're going to talk about possible reductions in the budget for next year based on this year's budget. So let me just pull this up here. Let's look at enrollment numbers. So this chart should look familiar to you from years past. This is our October count. This was our February, this was our October count. This was our February count. The enrollment is based on a blended count from next October, which is 90%, and 10% this February, unless they change that in the budget process. If you do what we've done in the past 10 years, we've moved kids up by grade level. We've assumed about 120 kindergartners, 18-ish ECSE. We actually will be up just barely over a half FTE from the enrollment. So we're kind of flat up. This doesn't, school choice always has a twist on this from that aspect. So I'm going to make an assumption here. Are we fine just moving kids up and basing our numbers on what we've done?
Yep.
Yes.
So when we look at expenses, typically what we've done in the past is we've basically taken the expenses, which is this number, what was approved in March, $23 million in revenue and 23, let me enlarge this a little bit so I can on this column. $23 million in expenses. The difference was about $12,000. We leave everything in the budget as is and we roll it into this year. Okay? So that's what this number over here represents. The difference, you say, well, this was $12,000, this is $887,000. What's the difference? Or $387,000, excuse me. What's the difference? That's where we're going to start talking about what we know in the state budget right now. Recall the governor puts out a budget, the House puts out a budget, the Senate puts out a budget. We know the governor's budget, and that's all we know at this moment. If you want us to talk, you can talk from there, Tammy, if you want.
Okay. The governor's budget, and Brian has it on there, includes an increase of $241 per pupil, which is about a 2.5% increase in our foundation. So we would go from $9,608. Add the $241, we'd add $9,849. And that would add about $375,000 to our revenue. So Brian has added that in that $23,454,000 from our amended 24 budget. He's also added, I believe, the $12,000.
Yeah, so when you look at, you take this additional revenue plus basically $12,000 unspent dollars that we're anticipating being roll up. To get a zero budget, we're at $387,000 in additional revenue. And this is the discretionary funds that we have in the per pupil allocation. You can see in the past 2 years, we've had over a 5% increase in our per pupil, 450, 458. Right now we're at 271, which is what the governor proposed. So everything that we're building at this point is only that 241 increase. There is elections coming up to fill the vacant House and Senate seats. Realistically, we're probably not going to get a House or Senate budget till probably beginning of May. We have the May Revenue Estimating Conference.
First or second Friday,
and it's either the 6th or the 13th, something like that. We'll have a better understanding of where the state revenue comes in. But for the sake of tonight, everything that we're showing you is based on we're getting the governor's increase. Money is there in the state aid fund. Okay. There is another piece that we all need to keep our eye on, is there is a line item that helps reduce the retirement costs to bring it down. For our district, that equates to basically almost $700,000 worth of money that we've gotten that we turn around and basically send back to the state so they can pay down the unfunded retirement. In recent months, you might have seen it in your Michigan School Board Association. I know it was talked about at the last meeting. They're at a point where they believe they don't need that money anymore. So they're already sending it to us, and they feel the funds are sufficiently funded. That in essence, and this is where the governor's budget wants to use those funds to reallocate to GSRP and do the full day preschool no cost. But if they didn't and they just left the funds in the district, there would be another almost $700,000 for our district in increased revenue. Why is that important? So I'm going to kind of go through some of the contract costs. That keeping business as usual, what are some costs that we know of for next year? There's the $375,000 of per pupil increase. The $12,000 we didn't spend this year. We anticipate, based on the governor's proposal, that we'll get about a almost $16,000 increase in 31A, which is at risk. We don't have anything currently showing an increase in 31AA, which is the safety and security money that we got this year, nor do we have an idea of any increase in special ed. The governor's talked about that, but we don't have a number that we can put in there. The 23G in the money that in the budget that you approved in March did not have that line item in there. So that will be a line item going forward that we have there. But that's specific to the grant. There's not a lot of flexibility in there. The 147, there's a lot of line items from the state that deal with the retirement system. This is showing an offset cost by capping it at 120 that we would gain $106,000 in revenue by them reducing our cost. The 104 age benchmark assessment will gain 20 or 12,000. The 61 vocational will gain another 12,000, and bilingual will gain another 4,000. So these are, if we base it on the governor's budget and what we know of as of today. The enrollment stabilization fund, with our enrollment projected to go up, we aren't anticipating getting that. None of the budgets are calling for that. I shouldn't say none of the budget. There's only one budget. Are calling for that for next year. So we got it this year because we took a dip in enrollment, so they gave us some extra money. So we took it out, or we're planning to take it out because we're not anticipating getting it. The ESSER funds, ESSER 2 and 3, we currently have about 80,000 line item for this year. We're taking that out because all those funds are going to be gone. Any questions at this point? This is just stuff that, based on the governor's budget and what we know if it's signed into law today. So let's look at contract costs, what we know of. The contract for the early learning childcare, we are still in negotiations. In this year's budget, we built in an increase for them this year once the contract was settled. We don't have a contract yet, so it's not. That will be roll-up money at the end of the year for the board, but we have it built in. In making the assumption of moving the expenses forward, that increase is moved into next year's budget. We're planning for it, which would help with whatever the contract settles. Paraprofessionals, they have a settled contract, and their costs for next year are about a little over $15,000. Administrator's contract for next year is about $53,000. The teacher's contract for next year, again, assuming exactly the same number of teachers, assuming everybody has the same benefit, because we have that period, nobody changed, it's a $708,000 increase. They have a 1% on schedule and steps. Secretarial bargaining unit is $16,000. Our goal has been, I have to get back down the curriculum. That's I got to look at that calculation. I'm going to skip the New Haven at the moment, and I'm going to go down to central office, which means pretty much anybody.
Can I ask you a question? When we see the $15,000 for parapros, is that what we pay parapros for a whole year for all of our parapros?
No.
Or that's just
That's an increase over what they're currently making, and it's their increase and raise it. It's the FICA, the retirement that also goes with that. I'm going to come back to New Haven for a minute. Non-union, which is all of the 52-week people that are part of a specific group, is about $68,000. Custodial costs are $27,000 increase. Lunch aides currently we did not give them an increase this year. We gave them 2 increases the year before. I think it's $15 or $15.45. I think they're $15.45 is what they're making now. So that would be something if we wanted to look at an increase. It's not a lot because they don't work a whole lot of hours. Technology, our 3IT is about $8,000. Bus drivers, with their contract with all of our drivers, works to be about $30,000. Transportation director and dispatch, theirs is about $5,600, and mechanics goes to $7,100. Now that's all costs, so that's healthcare costs, any projected costs. It's not all payroll. There's FICA, retirement, benefit costs that we know of. Several years ago, we entered into a partnership with New Haven where they pay 75% of one of our mechanics, and we pay 25%. They still want to do that partnership, so the intent is to keep that going. When we shared a director of transportation, at the time it was Deb Dobbs and now it's Susie, it was a 50-50 split. They have, and when we did that, we structurally put in a dispatch. So when Deb or Susie was gone, we made sure we had someone here. And then in there, they have a gentleman whose name is Steve, who does it when Susie or Deb were over here. He ran the New Haven. They're now at a point where they don't need to share the director anymore. So what that is a loss of revenue. Over the years, this year in particular, it wasn't a 50-50 cost because they looked at time, how much time Susie was over there versus not over there, and their person really became their director. So we are currently, for that position, only getting we budgeted in the March budget $10,000 in revenue. So that would be a lost revenue that we would get. So then if you go down to, and I'm going to get to the staff here, but I want to go down to this line item. Our ideal staffing for transportation is to have all of our bus drivers, 2 extra, a dispatch, and a half-time transportation director. If our director now comes back to us full-time, those 2 extras we don't necessarily need to. We need 1. So that we have all of our drivers full, we have 1 extra bus driver, a dispatch, and a transportation that can pick up if we're ever short bus driver. So the difference between keeping the dispatch person and a driver is $28,000. It's the difference in cost when you look at health care and other benefits and so forth. So the savings for us would really only be about $28,000.
So because the transportation director, they don't need it, comes back, that's why you would eliminate the dispatch, because then that spot becomes dispatch and director? Is that what you're saying?
When we did the split, we put the dispatch here, a full-time dispatch, because we needed someone on site if Deb or Susie was at the other district. Prior to that agreement, Deb Dobbs is here, and Susie did a bus run, and then she did hours in the office as a dispatch. But we formally made her a full-time dispatch when we did the split.
Okay.
So rather than have 2 extra drivers, we could keep the 1 extra driver, because we always have runs and someone calls in sick and so forth. But then our other 2 extra people is now the dispatch we have here and Susie. So we kind of got always three backup drivers is the concept. So by the dispatch does make more than the driver and has a different set of benefits. So the difference in the dispatch and the driver that's the $28,000 savings. Did I explain it right?
And now would we be eliminating a bus driver or just not looking for another?
I think as of today, I think it's just not looking for another one. I don't think we are fully staffed.
We're fully staffed.
We've had that 1 extra, but I don't know if we've really ever been. Amy, do you know off the top of your head if we've ever had the 2? We might have had it for a period of time, and then 1 leaves, and so we've shuffled. But
that would all be the same as it is right now.
Correct. We're not changing runs. We're not reducing a run. We're keeping the same number of runs, looking at trying to balance them a little better right off the stop, so that we can start the year with the drive. And what we've done with the security monitors has retained people. We did lose 1 but we had another one backfill, which has helped us maintain that.
Yeah. Okay. Would there be a possibility to look into some kind of activity of bus, like we have talked about maybe in the past, that would transport students home from after-school activities?
That could be something we could be looking at and look at what that costs.
Right, like what it would cost.
Because sometimes those buses, if we're running like programs that are run on a grant, we're running transportation after. Sometimes we can put more kids on, but we can look into that. So right now, we know of 1 teacher that's retiring, and that's Mrs. Barrett. And we know of Mrs. Rosinski, our counselor, who was on maternity leave, and then while she was on maternity leave, decided not to come back and I believe went back to her previous district. So right now we have a counseling position posted, but It's for an elementary. If we don't fill that, that's what that other $103,000 is on this list for the REA staff. The two in pink represent a couple scenarios. If you recall, when we had Mrs. Core absent, we hired a science teacher, we hired a music teacher to backfill. So technically, we are overstaffed right now by 2 teachers. There are rumors that there are 1, maybe 2 more teachers retiring this year. We'll know May 1st because in May 1st, we should know by May 1st, doesn't mean we're going to know. May 1st in their contract is they have to notify the district in order to get a certain payout of their unused days. So if we have those retirements, then we'd start looking at the scheduling and shuffling those 2 extra teachers we have into there, but we would have those 2 retirements listed. So there's potentially 4 FTEs that we're reducing. Now I say that we're in the middle of scheduling, and when we finally get into the nooks and crannies, sometimes 4 only is 3.5, or sometimes 4 is really only 3 because we got singleton courses or we got a unique situation in the scheduling that I got to keep a teacher an extra hour in order for them to be able to teach the schedule. So I will know more as we get closer into the finalizing the schedule. But that's a very fluid process. With this, we currently, in numbers-wise enrollment, we have currently 71 kindergartners that we know of. 51 of them have completely finished their registration and are ready to go. That's lower to me than I would like. So for the budget's purposes, we could reduce a kindergarten, knowing in August you're probably going to have to put that back. And when I say reduce it, it could be teacher A, instead of kindergarten, I'm going to put you in Mrs. Barrett's because I need a teacher for Mrs. Barrett's replacement. But knowing in August, if the numbers true come in, I'm going to move that person back to kindergarten and we're going to backfill Mrs. Barrett. So from a paper perspective, we can get a savings of a teacher by doing it that way. But the board needs to realize it's probably just on paper for a couple months. And in August, a lot of times kindergarten parents don't, if it's his first-time child, they don't finish it till August. They don't think that. We are looking at doing some with our preschool. They have some evening events coming up. So Sarah's talked with Mike about doing some evening on-site registration at those events to get people to finish the paperwork and process to get that number. I know it's tuition-based, but our preschool numbers, we're a solid 33-year-olds, and we only have 23 this year.
How many kindergartners do we have this year?
This year, I think it was like 117 or 118. So, and we've gone up throughout the year. Sometimes we've been as high as 120, 121, and then we lose a few throughout the year. Kindergarten is our grade that has one of the grades that has the worst attendance. But it is what it is. So I'm not at this point asking for yays or nays because there's still so many unanswered questions here. But I wanted to give you some context of cost for contracts. That $700,000 that whatever's going to be done in some negotiations in the back room at Lansing could dramatically impact our budget. I am thankful that this board over the last couple of years has, in the way we've done it, has kept putting money away because at some point we're going to need that because we all knew the 450 is not sustainable, and this is basically cutting it in half. I mean, you're going from 500 to less than 250. And if you look at that, that's a 2 as Tammy said, a 2.5% increase. I mean, insurance, cost of living, all that's more than 2.5. Our contract steps for teachers are anywhere from 5 to 7, depending on where they're at. We typically do 3% raises for a lot of the other groups. That's not even covering that number. So,
Brian, can you scroll down? I'm sorry.
Yep.
To the budget for the student budget, 125.
So the intent, and I got to pick that. The intent is when we started putting that curriculum budget aside, that if we took a certain dollar number per student, multiply our FT. Right now we do $150,000 as a set aside for the curriculum renewal process we do every year. As your enrollment fluctuates, going up is what we want. We want it strategic. You want to make sure you've got dollars because curriculum costs are going to go up too. And so I just need to double check that number because I think this is showing it's a reduction, but this would be less than 125 a person. So I just need to double check that.
Right, and
that's
that's
what
just
that's
a
for.
standard because I
That's
imagine
just
certain grades it's more than 125 for certain.
This is for new curriculum. So like the ELA that we're doing right now, and next year we're on the cycle, our 5th year, because we've done the science, social studies, math, ELA, all the elective courses are going to be tackled. That gives Renee, in essence, a pot of money, if you will, to work with those groups, because those groups, I probably would say, have not been touched in years, because we haven't formally done that. That number is separate from the first grade supply account, the grade 6 math thing.
Okay.
That I'll be bringing to you because we're going to meet on the 22nd, our next instructional team. I think it's that Monday. That's when I'm planning on working with the administrators. So, okay, let's look at what you spent this year and prepare what the budget will be. So that would be probably a May conversation, and I'll bring that to the board.
Are you going to break it down by, I don't know, do we have it by grade level or whatever right now?
So I think it's K-5, it's by grade level. K-5, there's a line item. Beginning in 6th grade, they have it by the content. So you have like a math, science for 6th through 8, and high school science, social studies, PE, world language.
Because we increased those amounts, right?
Yes, you did.
Because I would like to see, did they spend it?
The 1,200. We said 1,200. We approved 1,200 per teacher.
Yeah, I believe in the March 11th, some of those line items were 1,200, but we also went with, order the supplies you need so that we're not asking parents for crayons, paper. This was our baseline year, and so we have one grade level that went a little higher, and so Tammy and I had a conversation with them. Okay, let's look at it, what they're ordering, and other grade levels are either kind of right on track. There are some that haven't spent it yet, so we're going to be looking at that. So I shouldn't say they've all spent something. They just may not have spent it all.
So we'll have that information.
That would be at the May meeting because we're meeting with the administrative team on the 22nd on that.
That 42,000. If you take 125 times that 1,538, it's 192,000. And so we're at 150,000.
That's a cost.
That's the 42,000.
That's what it is.
Increase to 125 per student.
And that, when you're looking at a curriculum purchase, that's better, a lot better than what we were, but in cost-wise, we're still not there, but it's a good chunk. So I guess the questions that I have is, some of the things I'm bringing those building-based grade level supplies. I have on my list to bring back kind of an update on the uniform and the equipment that we did this year. To give you is there anything else at this point that the board wants us to bring back to the table to talk about, or at least have an idea of a number, or anything in the budget that was unique that maybe you want to relook at?
I would like to see what the athletics ended up doing after we gave all that money to athletics.
Yes.
Yeah,
all of them.
And then, I guess we'll have to discuss then whether or not, because I know many of the teams, I do not think, decided to use our money for their uniforms. So maybe we could figure out another way to still give those clubs some kind of money to use
for items that will stay with the club for years, rather than the uniforms.
So I'll have Preston, he's got like a spreadsheet of what was spent this year for what uniform and what's on the docket for next year, what groups are. So we'll bring that, so that will help there. And I also have kind of what Molly and Stacy did with their band, because we allocated money, but they did not spend all of it, because like for the band uniform, they're not needed yet. So at some point, we probably should put in a little bit away, so that when you get to that large ticket item, you have it. But they did like middle school T-shirts. We decided on, instead of a uniform, we would use kind of a consumable T-shirt. Middle school kids aren't. I don't know if it's good to get a shirt back from a middle school kid and keep reusing it. So I'll just leave it at that. But I will bring you back the athletic and the band, choir, and then the building supply budgets. Is there any?
Do we want to talk about? Is that where we would talk about our national travels?
Yep, I can. That would be, because especially if the intent is to put a line item there, that would be this would be the time, or not.
Okay.
And even if it's changing the process or procedures, we can do that. National travels. Okay. And again, you don't have to have all the ideas today. It's just we want to be able to prepare and bring it to you for the conversation.
I was just hoping that with the extra monies that we allocated to each of the teachers, that we would get less text messages from teachers asking for things. And it seems like still you were getting it for tissues and things like that, that I would have thought maybe that a little bit of that were covered. Or
I will tell you, I personally have gone to the middle school and addressed this with the middle school staff. We've had conversations with the other two buildings on theirs. We're trying to change that culture. It's not going to happen overnight, but we're trying to. So.
Money's there.
And the art teacher needs pencils and
that would probably be another account. Didn't we give the art?
The art has their own. We increased the art. We increased. We have musical instruments that we put money into.
Yeah, we know.
I mean, art has a line item for elementary, middle, and high school.
Can I ask you a question though? Say I'm a teacher and I need many supplies for my class next week. I have this project coming up. How do I go buy them and get reimbursed, or will I just call my administrator and they would purchase them? How would that go?
What we've done is we've partnered with School Specialty, which bid out all the stuff. So as a teacher, I just log into the middle school account. It's basically a shopping, Amazon shopping list.
Really?
I need 12 boxes of crayons, and so forth. Once they're done, it goes to their administrator for approval, who kind of looks over to make sure. Because we've had some teachers that's unique. It's not essential for the course. We've had to make some decision. And then once the administrator approves it, Tammy approves it, and the package comes to the school in a box with Mr. Walmsley's name written on it. I just hand it to Mr. Walmsley. All his stuff is in there. The secretaries don't have to separate things, don't have to do anything.
Very easy.
So our plan is, the checkout procedure before they leave in June, fill out your supply orders, so when the board approves the budget in July or June, July 1 we can hit send, and when they come back in August, it should be sitting there waiting for them.
Yeah, didn't we implement that last year?
This year is the first year. We started the process of getting the pieces in place last year, but we started this year.
Okay, so that'll be really helpful when we do talk about when we do start
what they
to finalize
used
the
and what they
budget.
didn't.
Yeah, that's what I want to see.
Maybe some of the stuff should be included into their curriculum line and not so much their supplies.
Well, remember on the curriculum, we have two curriculum budgets. You've got the new one for new adoption, and then you got the reoccurring. So if weekly readers are part of the social studies curriculum, that's charged to the reoccurring, so it shouldn't come out of their budget. If there's, Renee, can you give me another example of a reoccurring?
Sure.
Putting you on the spot.
Accelerated Reader, right? So that's a platform that we want to renew for year to year. So that would be considered a reoccurring cost. It's not something we're newly adopting or that we're switching curriculums or anything. It's something that we would like to continue.
So it doesn't come out of the teacher's budget. It comes out of this reoccurring.
It comes out of the curriculum budget.
The teacher's budget is really what supplies do you need
for your students
to teach the course for kids. If you need crayons, you need construction paper, you need rulers, that's where it comes out of. So, and I would say majority, I think for a first year implementation, they're spending.
Good.
But, all right, so we will work on those. The building supply budgets, building/grade level supplies. athletic uniforms / a band and choir, and then the national travels conversation in terms of process or line item. Okay. And cross our fingers that we have a House and Senate meeting started.
That'd be nice.
I think if we were to ever see anything come out of here early, it would be tough.
Yeah.
Okay. Next item on our agenda is our raves. Danielle, do you have anything?
I just want to say thanks to the PTO for the Eclipse classes. That was pretty awesome to be able to have those today, and for them going out of their way to reach to decide to do that for the entire school. That was nice, and I know the kids, at least in kindergarten and first grade, had to be constantly redirected. Take off your glasses until you get to your parent, because they were wearing them as they were walking out on the playground and sending them to each other. So that was fun.
Cool. Candace?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Angela?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay. Sandy?
I think I'm all set as well.
Okay, Margaret? I'm good. Okay, I just want to acknowledge the middle school and elementary school administrators and teachers that were involved in the March Reading Month. I enjoyed my time when I was over there, and I just want to especially acknowledge Cheryl Jarr. She allowed me to teach again, and it was the best thing. When I did my reading piece, I did a lesson with them, and it was really neat to go back and do some teaching. Okay, next item on our agenda is our student. Did anyone get a report from Connor?
No.
Did you, Margaret? He said he couldn't be here because it's the wrestling makeover, but he did not. He said he would send it to me, but I did not receive it.
I left at 5, went home and had dinner, so if he sent it after 5, I didn't check my emails.
I'd say the same thing for me. If he sent it after that, I looked, kind of before I left. So we will not have a report then tonight for our student rep. Mr. Walmsley, superintendent and legislative update.
At the last board meeting, we had a public comment regarding the facility use. So I asked Mr. Trend, who really deals with all the facility use regarding baseball, just to respond, to clarify on that aspect.
Sure.
He lives and breathes this every day. So.
Yeah. Just love facilities. No, so just to clarify the process for facility use with teams, especially in the spring. So as we know, the weather in the spring is a game of roulette. So all spring sports teams are assigned their outdoor practice facility, but they're also given an indoor practice assignment. And they're booked for all of those areas for every day of their practices. And like we said with the facility use discussion, if there's a need to use one of those areas by another group and that spring sport is outside, we have those conversations. But gym, so the assignments for the gyms are based on a number of factors. We look at the size of each team, different coaches' schedules, and the resources available in each gym. Several of our spring sports are growing. So in the past, where these teams have been able to share smaller spaces, we no longer can do that because we have larger teams. For example, tennis has varsity and JV now. That's a big group of people to schedule. So the decision was made to assign baseball, the mini gym and the auxiliary gym, the new field house, based on the ability for that team to utilize both of the batting cages that are present. As well, the new auxiliary gym was built with the multi-purpose floor, which is better for hitting and throwing baseballs off of than the traditional wood floor of the main gym. So then what we did was that main gym time was divided between track, and then soccer and tennis would share the gym after the track team was done on those days where they were inside. In the past, when the new auxiliary gym was available and they used that batting cage, that left one half of an auxiliary gym for those other teams to share and to practice when they were utilizing the other spaces. So I notified the coaches of the final indoor practice assignments prior to the season. And I had conversations in particular with the baseball coaches leading up to the season, as well as at the end of last year, that this was what we were going with and this is why, looking at the entire athletic department. And we had several conversations leading up to that with the rationale on why that change was being made. And again, that was the use of the new batting cage, the multi-purpose floor, and giving us some space for some other teams. I was unaware that there was arrangements made for a in-season practice and tryouts to take place off-site. The location in question was one that's owned by one of our assistant baseball coaches, one of our volunteer assistants. The players use it a lot in the off-season for their four-man groups because, again, in the winter, gym space is pretty tight. When I heard they were off-site, they were directed to resume practices back at the school, which they did. Since then, I've had conversations with Coach Evans and Coach Delore, looking at the needs and why do they need this space in particular. And they made some good points. And we got to a good agreement where they would use that main gym after those other teams were done on the days that they needed to utilize it, which worked well for some of their coaches that worked other jobs. Making sure I'm not missing anything. And they also met me halfway and invested in some indoor practice balls that are much better for hitting off of that gym floor, so that we're preserving that resource we have. So we've had quite a few indoor practice days already. March was not very kind to us, but knock on wood, it's gone pretty smoothly once we worked out that initial, that first day. So
just to clarify the statement that was made by the community member, and as Preston said, we have since adjusted schedules and came up with it. I haven't heard anything. I don't think you've heard anything, so I think it's working. The only way we know it's working or not if someone speaks up. So that's all right. So,
Thanks, Preston.
Thank you, Preston.
Cool. Thank you.
I got a question regarding field trips for the 8th grade from our board member, Mrs. O'Donnell. I don't really get involved in planning field trips, so I did some little research and I asked Renee to contact. So evidently the 8th grade trip had and I know it's been on some social media posts and there's been some parents out there, but I have not gotten any calls from any parents, specifically myself. There was an 8th grade trip to the Holocaust Museum when the war broke out in the Middle East with Israel and Gaza and that whole area there. There was a lot of protests and the decision was made to cancel the field trip because we weren't sure safety of kids at the time. So, Ms. Morella, can I turn it over to you now?
Sure.
Could I ask you, Ms. Staples?
So we asked what exciting experience our 8th graders are going to be able to engage with this year, and correspondence went out today actually because everything just got solidified, but our 8th grade students are in for an exciting and educational experience to the Detroit Zoo on April 24, 2024. With this diverse collection of animals and engaging exhibits, the zoo offers a fantastic opportunity for students to learn about wildlife, conservation, and one of the best zoos in the entire country. As they walk through the zoo's exhibits, students will have the chance to deepen their understanding of biology, ecology, and environmental science. They will also participate in educational programs and interactive experiences that enhance their learning and provide memorable moments. Additionally, the field trip to the Detroit Zoo offers an opportunity for students to bond with their classmates outside the classroom, fostering friendships and creating lasting memories. Wishing them a fantastic trip filled with excitement and learning. And that was from Ms. Morella. And that correspondence went out to families today.
So I guess the reason why I'm bringing it up is, and maybe it's a topic in the budget, there's nothing that I have found that requires field trips. Are they encouraged? Absolutely. They provide a valuable experience for kids, especially if you're learning about something, you can actually see it in action, such as call it Star Lab. That's not the one.
Starbase.
Starbase. Thank you. And I know the cider mill, when they're talking about the little guys are talking about the fruits and the apples and all that, and actually going there. So the question becomes: is this an expectation that? And maybe this is the wrong question, but the board has that we are doing field trip, because then we need to look at the cost of field trips and offsetting some of the cost, because this is all 100% parent paid for
Isn't
field
it
trip.
normally how trips are?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. And
But when you're doing field trips that are longer, or any field trips that are longer than the school day, or that go over overnight trip, those are unique to having the team able to do that, because not everybody can do an overnight trip based on personal situation. Like if I've got young kids or I'm a single parent, I might not have the ability to be able to stay overnight, or I have to be gone by 3 because I had to pick up my kids at another. So field trips are usually within the school day. So Ms. O'Donnell, or Board Member O'Donnell's question was more of, is there a trip plan? Yes, between Ms. Morello working with the teachers and figure out what are they going for, but there's nothing that requires it. So I just want maybe parents to know that there's nothing that requires us to have a field trip in every grade level.
But aren't the field trips usually, arranged by or brought up by the teachers teaching something in particular?
Yes.
And
Do
they have to be based on
was brought up by teachers. It was 2 specific teachers, one a science teacher and one an ELA teacher, that was collaboration and bringing these ideas to Ms. Morello.
Okay.
So the intent when they fill out the field trip form is it's supposed to tie into your curriculum, or what's the educational value. There are some field trips that groups do, like I think Webb does. They go to Barrymore's, or they may some go down to a Tiger game, and they're talking about the physics, or marketing stuff. Yeah. But there is supposed to be an educational tie to it.
We're not in the job.
I would love to be able
School
to.
board's not in the job of saying we have to have field trips.
Well, and I guess that's where, and I know it's kind of unfair because
this is right. I mean,
pardon.
That's not where you're coming from with this.
I guess that we do encourage them, and we stress, we want you to give kids that experience, but the actual development of the field trip is the teacher who's doing it.
Right,
and
but
we
as a
could
school
have.
board, you're not asking us that as a group we're telling teachers you have to go on field trips. That makes no sense to me.
Could we offer to pay for field trips for the students? Do you think that would encourage students or teachers, or maybe?
I think your position could be is if we keep the school safety people, you are in a position because they're already on staff to pay for the transportation because they're already costing
the students and the teachers, or was it is that like a certain class though, or something? No, I think you're right. Maybe it wasn't the student. You're right. It wasn't.
I think where a lot of this
is a really low.
I could speak because my daughter is in 8th grade, and a lot of this, the anger with a lot of the parents is it started with. That first year was the first year that went to the middle school, from the elementary in 4th grade versus 3rd. Then from there, COVID happened. So that particular grade specifically, they didn't get to do Starbase. Starbase came in a truck in the parking lot. There were all those things that were in those younger years, those field trips, that they were denied. And so now it's escalated to now they're in 8th grade. And there are a lot of other districts that do 8th grade field trips, whether it be to Washington, D.C. or wherever.
That's not a field trip.
Educational purposes.
That's not a field trip.
A field trip.
That is
a class trip.
That's what you're talking about. It's a school-sponsored trip, but the school districts don't pay for students to go to Washington, D.C.
No, but the setting up of a new something that would be a tradition, I guess you could say, for the 8th graders. I mean, I think that starting something like that, I'm not opposed to doing that.
I think that
especially if you're saying it's an educational
responsibility. Why, I don't understand why we're having the conversation.
I'm not so sure all the teachers are really friends, so I'm not sure that they can all get together.
And it's not one teacher for the 8th grade class. The 8th graders are
Well, no, they go as a class. Like if they go down to Henry
I don't
Ford,
even know
or they
what that
go,
means.
they all go all the whole grades.
Well,
all
yeah,
together.
but all
So
7
somebody
teachers
has
have
to be a
come
good
together.
communicator to get the
Correct,
ball rolling.
right. So we don't need to have all 7 of them to come to it. We would just need like 2 8th grade teachers to come together to organize something like that.
But that's not our job.
No, but we could encourage them and say maybe we could help.
But why, wait a minute. Why am I, as a board member, why am I going to be in the business of encouraging people to take field trips or take a group of kids
to
Washington, D.C.? Why is that my job?
It's a great educational experience, and if
I'm
we can
not
offer
saying it's
help
not.
to make it happen.
But it's not. How do we make it happen? Do we say, Mrs. Michon and Mrs. Pacito, as a board, we'd like you two to take kids to Washington? That
Well,
doesn't
if they
make
needed me
sense
to
me.
chaperone, maybe yes, but something.
No. I meant if you two were the
call
teacher.
Morella, and he could ask Morella or the administrator and say, "Hey, how do you feel? Ask your teachers. How do they feel about this? If there was something that we could do or help you or do some research, or could you do them research?"
I just think that maybe that culture has
I don't think
gone
anybody wants to
away.
force anything.
That used to be
It's
a
just like
very
to maybe.
Well, we
I
used
don't
to
think
do it
it's
in
our
our
job.
you didn't go
for
anywhere.
teachers to do. Why is that culture gone away?
I guess my point in bringing this
It's
is
very traditional.
When was the last time?
So I don't understand why we would encourage our 8th grade
The 8th grade, I mean, I remember the high school level, they did the close-up trip, junior, seniors, but 8th grade to Washington, D.C. When did it stop happening?
it's never been since I've been here.
I was just going to say, I'm
For our
thinking at the
district.
high
In
school.
the last,
Wasn't there
we're
a
talking
camp?
about our district, not what anybody
Right.
else.
There was
Wasn't
a
there
camp,
some
and
sort of
that
a
stopped
camp?
with my oldest son's grade. They didn't do it that year and stopped doing it. We haven't brought it back.
But that's
up.
also on the teacher.
Like
But
they
That was,
used to
yes,
do-
that was because all those teachers had left that year.
I mean, way back, I know before Brian, we used to do a senior trip.
That was 5th grade.
Senior
I know
class
what you're saying.
trip.
We can't make the teachers
Yeah, but I
do
think
it.
that
But
That's different than a field
They're
trip.
graduating from what to make the
Yeah.
middle schools.
Yeah.
and that doesn't
Right, and
make
then like
sense.
the elementary.
talking
they do
about-
But
their-
there are some grades
their-
though
well,
that
it's
they
like
do
third,
do that.
third
They
grade.
do do
Excuse me, one at a time.
You tell teachers, you got to take kids to Washington, D.C. That
I'm
makes no
not saying
sense.
that it is. But
Mr. Walmsley has a point.
I'm just my point in this is not that we don't want trips. It's just there's nothing that we are requiring trips, and so there is a possibility, depending on a grade level, the makeup of the teachers. We get new teachers. We get teachers who leave us. That it could happen that a grade doesn't have a trip.
Yeah.
And so, I can, with our new structure with bus drivers, if finances, we got people that are on during the day that we could help figure out ways, because we're always encouraging them to them, but there's nothing that says they're mandated. So my response to Ms. Kelly was, yeah, there's no trip planned at the moment, because that I didn't know of, because they did the cancellation. But they have this one in the works, but there's not a requirement that they had to have a backup trip. That's all. That's all my point is we have nothing, and if it's evening, if it's beyond their workday contractually, those are things that have to be either voluntarily agreed to or negotiated.
Well, it's just like the Europe trip that we were she took it upon herself to put that all
Yeah.
together and bring it to work. The social studies teacher, math teacher, English teacher, take it upon yourself and find something at a performance at Macomb or in Oakland.
I'm not aware of any teacher who has brought it to the administrator that has been denied, as long as it's reasonable and it's within, it fits within the parameter. They might have chosen a different setting, but it's still got it, but we haven't denied trips.
I think what has happened.
Could they ever
COVID kind of
maybe ask
just
for help with the planning process,
killed
especially if we have some new teachers? Currently, they might not understand what it is or who they would need to contact, or even that. It might not just be on their radar, because I know, as being a new teacher, there's so many other things you are taking in at the moment, and to be able to just hey, take a break. Plan a field trip with your kid. Go do some
I would tell you, Ms.
and have a day out of the classroom would be refreshing to them too. But they could just be bogged down with so many other things that they're not even.
I would tell you, Ms. Morella, going forward, and her, Mr. Knight, because they've had trips that were planned, and we've had to adjust award schedules because they didn't have it on the master, are meeting with each grade level as they're planning and having a conversation. But I just want to get out there that there could be a situation where there's not a trip for a variety of reasons. And if your trip gets canceled and you're starting to book a trip now, it's almost impossible to get spots in because every school takes their trips in the spring or fall or spring break. That's all I had. I didn't have it. There's no legislative updates.
Nothing there, eh?
I guess thank you to Miss Morella for doing what she did. I know it's late in the game.
Okay. Items of interest from the board. Candace.
I guess, it's disheartening at times when I bring up the idea of workshop to go over particular issues that I think are issues, and I've brought up multiple times, and they're not, our agendas are dictated, and it's very going down. It's very hard to get something put on an agenda.
Have you asked?
Yes, I've asked for particular topics.
You talked to me specifically and said, I would like this on the agenda.
Well, it's be in a situation where I'd like it to be opened up as a conversation for everybody, as we work
you
through.
Need to let me
If
know.
I say something on the agenda and it's just me talking, and then nobody else is putting anything in, it's just me talking.
Well, part of that
the
issue, though, is
ideology of the workshop is that it's everybody's input.
But maybe maybe the rest of us don't have a say on what you want to talk about.
Okay.
So then you will be the only one talking.
There's multiple things. We've talked about this. We've never walked away from a workshop that did not have a positive outcome.
We've not had that many.
And
so
every time it's been a benefit. It's like it's shown when we've exited how much progress.
As far as me as being a president, if you want something on this agenda, you just have to say, Deb, I would like this item on the agenda. I will talk to Mr. Walmsley and we'll put it on. And then everybody gets their agenda ahead of time. So they'll know, and it doesn't, we don't need to put your name on it or anybody's name on it, but everybody knows that we're going to talk tonight about whatever. I personally do not like workshops. That's just my opinion, and I'll just give it back.
We had very productive workshops, and you were in favor of them. When did you not like workshops?
Because I don't want to be doing them all the time. We keep adding then dates and times to our schedule, and I sometimes think that's hard enough to get all of you present, and then add another. Pardon me? I'm just saying,
but
it's hard to schedule.
That's not an excuse to not have something that helps us move forward and talk about things.
Why can't we do it here?
I agree that the workshops that we've had have been very successful. But I don't agree that we have to have workshops for things that we want to discuss. I feel like a lot of those discussions actually should be at this table. Workshops are more for almost like team building thing, like how we want to structure things, not necessarily like to talk about things we want to add into the budget and things like that. Like those are all discussions I think that we have to have at the table. That's the way I understand it anyways. And I think that that's the way that it should be. That's my opinion.
I agree with what you're saying. A lot of things are brought up at the table, but there's things
Well, I ask that for the remainder of this, at least until June, if you want something on the agenda, that you please let me know.
I thought we discussed another workshop here before the end of the year, and we even had particular topics that we were going to talk about.
I don't have anything on my calendar. There's nothing that I have.
We didn't pick a day, but we talked about it.
What were the topics?
I have no clue.
Now I have to go back.
Okay, well then please do me this favor. Go back and take a look at what you had, what you wanted for a workshop.
I believe one of the topics was CTE programs,
board policies.
Yeah,
board policies.
Board policies. Going through each of the CTE programs.
We didn't get to that.
The Schedule Bs to see what.
I can tell you, CTE program and Schedule Bs, that was never a discussion of this board to do a workshop on that. That may be what you want, so you can understand what we're doing. But she did not. Policies.
Okay, well,
hold on, wait.
I'm sorry.
Let me finish. policies, because you bring that up constantly with the policies. And I have said to you that I agree with doing a policy to get, if you want to take a certain section to understand, but you can also do that at a board meeting as an agenda. I support that. But the other thing, I don't even know where that's coming from. The policy is something you talk about constantly, that you, and because I think you want to change policies, because you talk about them a lot.
No, I just think that getting all of us on the same page with certain things,
You
like
and I
the
can
board,
read the same policy and interpret it differently.
Correct.
I think that's what her point is.
So why don't? And I get that, but the
Not that
reality
anybody wants
is,
to change things.
But the reality is, what does that matter until a situation comes up? Because you're right, you could look at the policy and I look at it, and then a situation comes where we have to discuss it. Then you talk it out. But to go through every single policy, because quite frankly, we already do that when we what's the word I want to say, revamp, or when we review them. I mean, my God, we do that already. So if there are specific policies that you don't understand why they're the way they are or what we do with them.
I don't think it's about me not understanding, Margaret.
Well, I'm not meaning that. I'm saying if there's something that you don't understand within the policy, I'm not. There's nothing wrong with it.
I think it's more about the ideas of when we're in an open meeting and we're trying to conduct business and we have people waiting on us.
We have to keep going. And
it would be nice for us to be able to go to the workshops and be able to throw some of the business that we've really been all wanting to talk to each other about in a kind of less formal way, off the cuff. So it's not always like, oh, we got to hurry and finish this and we got to move on because we got to stick to our agenda and we have people here waiting on us. When we do our workshops, it's more along the lines of, okay, so I wanted to discuss about our CTE programs. I have quite a few questions. And then we could all lay it out there and talk about CTE programs for a while.
Okay,
but
the problem with that
is not okay. We're not making any changes.
No, the problem with that is who at this table, and I'm not even going to include Mr. Walmsley because he probably doesn't have it all, knows about the CTE programs.
Well, we would talk, and what we don't know, we would collect the questions that needed to be answered and then go back with
Give me those questions ahead of time so I can go to the teacher or whatever.
I feel like those.
Sometimes you don't know what your question is until you're in the middle of a discussion.
I feel like though that so like for like CTE programs, just because we're using that as an example. Yeah, just because we're throwing it out there as an example. Like I don't feel like that should be workshop material either. I feel like that is, hey, I want to know more about this. I have questions about this, and then that puts it on the agenda, and then there's a presentation, and then you can have your questions.
Sure, but you also can't use a workshop because you don't want to talk about something at the table. And you want to take because that is sometimes where I think you're coming from, where you can't. That's not what a workshop.
I think it's more of an open conversation in a lively debate that can happen because sometimes it's tough to do that when you're in a meeting like this, and we all just want to be heard, and we all want to say what's being said. Right. I think to have a workshop and to hash out what our ideas about things are okay, as long as we're not like making policy and moving forward. You know what I'm saying? We're not like, we're going to change all this here. We obviously cannot do that at the workshop. But we can talk about things we want to change about our board and about our district at the workshop. Nobody's doing it, but we're just talking in an open meeting, in a sense, because we kind of have to, but with less formality. So that we got to go this and that and this. I don't know what I want to talk about. Putting CTE can be a very broad
what it is. It's just
I'm just saying when you just threw out CTE. When have we had any conversation?
Because she's obviously
one of the things.
Right.
Let's just say,
I'm just saying,
we've got a list.
Never had that conversation.
There's certain Schedule Bs that are open, nobody's signing up for, versus others that we could be.
Why could that conversation not be with Mr. Walmsley? Mr. Walmsley, personnel report. It shows that we don't have what's one of the language ones? Spanish or French club. We don't have anybody. And he just tells you that we don't have somebody to do it, or we don't have a program there, or whatever. See, to me, that's what
one person talking about it gets you nowhere because you're the only one bringing it up. When you have a workshop, everyone's talking about it.
They may not even want that
topic. Questions about it at the table. We did talk about at the last workshop. We did talk about I don't know if it was having another one or continuance of the one, because we did not get to a couple of the things that were on our agenda.
I do remember
Policy
that.
was
Yes.
one of them. That we did.
That was bad. I would probably agree on that part. Yes.
Well, no, that is absolutely. We said that we were going to do some kind of workshop with respect to policy, and I have asked a couple times with Candace, and just what exactly does that mean?
No, because
in my mind,
The board policy was the
board.
main
So that's
expectations of the board, and
right,
correct.
Yes,
I don't think
and but that comes in with just self-evaluation of us as a board, that kind of thing. But to me, we can't. You say workshop.
you guys can't stand it. Your head starts spinning around.
Because I don't want 18 workshops. I want effective. And if in the one about policy, we did say we were going to do that.
But that's about board, like organization of the board. Like that's kind of what I don't know. That's
I do remember that piece of it. But are we talked, I believe, this is my comeback, I believe that we were going to have that one in the fall so that when we vote for the positions, which we do in January, that then we would have it. So if we had it in December or something, so that, okay, guys, you know that in January you're going to have to vote for president, vice president, whatever. Let's take a look at that.
Yes. I'm going to disagree with you on that.
Okay.
Because that may have been the conversation we had last fall, and we never actually
did
follow through.
I would agree on that. And
so
that
we
I
did
take
talk
responsibility.
January, whatever month it was.
right.
We did talk that
we wouldn't have time to do that.
Yeah, but that particular discussion, we were going to have a workshop for it, and we didn't say we were going to wait until the fall. Now, if I'm the only one that thinks that that's what the
No, I don't think
that's
So I am asking the board, do you want a workshop on board policy as related to the board, the section 100, I think it's 200.
I think we should think on it. Maybe we want to have more ideas for a workshop. Maybe we talk to Kelly. Maybe Danielle can think of some. Maybe if somebody can actually brainstorm on some ideas that they really feel are important topics that we as a board should discuss together, and they've been throwing around.
Then I ask you to please send me your thoughts, that I could then put a list together that I could send to all of you and say, here's what I'm asking you tonight. Send me some of your thoughts, and then I'll get it out to the whole board. And then we can talk about, are we in agreement, or is there anything else we want to add, take away? But you got to be specific. I agree with Margaret on that. If we talk board policy, that's 9,000 different whatever in there,
And we already do it.
It was just the board section.
Yeah, I do remember that.
It was board policy was the word, if you will, but the reason for doing it was the working together. What are our expectations of each other? That kind of thing. Am I correct?
Yep.
In what?
Yep.
Right. What's expected.
Okay. So get them to me, please, by within the next week. And then I will get it together, and then we'll look at some dates. So take a look at your calendar or in April. No, yep. March, April.
Well, and I'm just going to say this then while we're doing it. We never picked a rescheduled date for Brian's
evaluation.
Yep.
So I'll work with, there's two things right there. Could we do them in one meeting?
Nope.
Why not?
Because I don't want to.
Oh, because one's got to be.
That the one is really, really extremely important. The whole thing with Brian, this is.
Okay, so that means 2 meetings you're coming up to. Just let you know.
With that.
Well, if you can't ever make one, Deb, I would take care of the workshop if you decided you didn't want to.
No, if we're going to have a meeting.
We only had one meeting last
workshop,
month, right?
I'd be okay with that as well.
Okay, so Brian, I'll work with you on getting a date for your eval. Okay. Candace, anything else?
No.
Sandy.
I just wanted. Mine's gonna be real quick. I just wanted to mention that I unfortunately couldn't make it to the State of the District on the 21st, and I really appreciate it being recorded and whatnot, because I was able to watch it that way. And I just wanted to say thank you to Brian and anybody else who helped you set that up. I thought you did a great job, and I thought it was very informative and I appreciate that. Thank you.
I thought it was good too. Angela?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay. Danielle?
The only question I had was regarding that NHS email, and if anything ever came about it, because or NJHS, right, and junior high honor society, because as Jackson just being in kindergarten, I really did think it was goofy, stupid, weird that the district schedules their music concerts during the school day when a lot, just like the parent had mentioned, during the school day when a lot of parents are working. But then I was like, it's just music that they have for 6 weeks, and they're just, just playing what they've done in the 6 weeks, so whatever. But if that's the case for things like NJHS and NHS or any other awards type things that happen, middle school and high school, I think that's, I don't know, for lack of a better word, absurd. That those major things in a student's eyes and in a parent's eyes, I'm lucky enough that my husband and I both work from home that we can just sneak out during those times, and I can schedule my teaching around that. But 95% of parents or 90% of parents don't have that option, and I feel like we're not allowed. We're just like the parent had mentioned, we're taking that away from the parents and from the kids of seeing their own parents at those events.
No, we're not.
Because
I
they're
have been
not
a working
going
parent
during the day.
I understand that. I have been a working parent all of my kids' life, and that I feel like especially Richmond, they try to schedule things usually at the beginning of the morning, so you only have to take a half day off, or they do them later on, and they do equal amounts of stuff because like the band concerts, choir concerts in high school, those are all in the evening as far as I'm
But
aware
awards
of.
and ceremonies, why are those all during
all
the
of
day?
I can tell you the high school, but finish it.
And I just think that, and it does, and as a working parent, like I said, I can empathize with that because I was that. And you have to, sometimes you have to take PTO time for it, or you switch, you switch shifts with somebody or whatever, but you work it out and you figure it out. And I don't think it was that big of a deal. I guess I don't recall it being.
I just feel like it would. I would be.
I just don't think
very
everything
upset
happened in
having
the
to
evening. I
take
guess.
PTO in order to go to an awards event where my students being honored, because that's not. I haven't.
Well, why
seen
is that any
it
different?
so
let me give you
I
the
don't want to start an
reason.
argument, but why is that any different than the music, though? Like what you consider extremely important to you and your kid could be something totally different for me and my kid. Like, what if my kid excels in music and stuff, and that's, you know what I mean? Like, so I mean,
Well,
I'm going to say the
at
important
the higher
ones.
grades, but at the elementary grades when they're just there for 6 weeks and they're singing paddling my kayak, like it's cute.
Yeah.
But or they're the other school districts that do a big Christmas concert for an hour and a half. When you're going in for a 10-minute thing, I totally get, I'm not going to try to block off an hour of the gymnasium at 6 o'clock at night for a 10-minute presentation. And so those are less structured. It's not that expectation. Like I get at the high school and middle school level that they're at night, the band concerts and everything, the choir concerts. But I don't understand the district's rationale. Just like I still don't understand the district's rationale. But I've talked to specials teachers and they enjoy it. Having 6 weeks at a time of a special, I think it still makes zero sense to me, no matter how I flip it. But I don't understand the district's rationale of scheduling things during the day for awards type ceremonies that are.
I don't mind for second and third grade awards. Okay, maybe you can have them during the day, but I do kind of feel like NJHS, that might be something in the future. Maybe I might want to think about making a little bit of a bigger deal with. But I've just been seeing whoever's running that club has been doing phenomenal things. So I hope this doesn't discourage her or discourage her, right? And she just might have just thought, well, this. But I also feel like years past, haven't Margaret, you've been to them. Were they always during the day?
The high school ones are
the NJHS,
but
they were always during the day.
But we didn't.
The junior one in the last 4 years has been during the day.
Okay,
it's been during the day for longer.
Because I went to a day one. Yeah, my son.
No, I will argue that.
Argue me?
I am going to argue because all the years that I was board president and went to that and had to give out an award, it was at night.
It was at the middle school.
Middle school.
Middle school.
That's what we're talking
the
about.
8th grade.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about because I'm actually going to have to disagree with you. The middle school one was during the day.
I know it was
Not
a few years
9
ago.
years from 2010 to 2019.
Anyway, well, agree to
You have to prove
disagree.
me wrong.
I would like to explain rationale
Point
here.
of view, or
Can I give you a
we're talking
rationale?
about a very small
No one wants to
group
hear
of
it.
students,
Forget
whether
it.
it's 40 to 50 students who, I know you had mentioned, well, it would be hard to reach out to them since the communication is already up, but we're not talking about 1,500 students in the district. We're talking about a classroom.
What about all those
size.
parents that took the day off already?
Yeah.
And
They're
Amen.
already scheduled to take the day off.
and I guess
Well, I wouldn't change it now, obviously.
Anyways,
I mean, we have it set, it's published, it's posted.
It has been, yeah.
It stays. Let me give you the rationale. Because I was part of the rationale piece for why we started to do it during the day. Like, for example, at the high school, we have our 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade award ceremonies. We made all the kids come down into the gym so that they could see their fellow students, and maybe that would encourage others. Or some kids, guys, don't ever get acknowledged. This was one of the big pieces. Their parents never show up for awards or anything at night. They never get acknowledged. And so, they'd be in my office the next day and I'd be giving them their certificate. This way, if we do it during the day, we do hit those kids that their parents never showed up. Other kids are seeing it. They're getting cheered on. Talk about, we give away awards to some kids that they're never acknowledged for anything. And at least, maybe for 5 minutes, they have a spotlight.
Well,
that was one of the reasonings when we changed those things.
Back in the Stone Ages, when I walked the halls of Richmond High School,
yes,
the award ceremonies were during the day. They were during the school day. And their parents, my mom was a cook over at the middle school. She would come over and take her break, come over and watch, and go back. But we did do them like that. I guess to me, there are people that work during the day that can't do anything that's during the day. All they can make is things at night. So if the things or they work at night and they can only get to things during the day, it goes like this. Some people, and you're right, some people like you work from home, you can get to things, or you can send an aunt or an uncle because you're out of town for work, grandparents, all of that stuff. So to me, we're doing the best we can with how we schedule it. And quite frankly, the email, and since you brought it up first, now I'm going to say what I was going to say. I found that email to be extremely insulting by that individual who, quite frankly, it was just all about her particular family, and that she in turn wants to insult our administrators and our teachers, that it sounded to her from talking to other districts that it's because our people don't want to do things after school. I found that insulting. So I'm saying it publicly that is not what the case is, and how dare you challenge the integrity of the people that are working here every day. I certainly hope that individual is of the utmost highest integrity.
Can I just fill in some pieces? So there's 3 parts here. One is when COVID hit, we changed our elementary specialist model to be that 8-week model.
Yeah.
So that it would minimize the number of kids that a teacher would have. You'd have them every day, because what we were finding is if it did every Monday, if I'm out, we got a Martin Luther King Day, there's a snow day, there might be 4 weeks sometimes that a kid never sees their music teacher if they have music on Monday. So by doing that, it actually, the staff have really been able to do some cool things, right? We've had some transition with staff. We have no longer Mr. Finley, we have Mrs. Yost. And so the expectation has been, with kind of a standards-based grading model, is at the end of this period, your kid should be able to demonstrate something to you. So in music, they do, one first grade class will sing what Row Your Boat or whatever you say, I can't remember the song. Paddle on and then another second. And it's not enough first graders to make a first grade concert, because I get one of every grade level. So we've tried to do that. STEAM in the past has done like showcases, and they've had time where parents have come in. We're trying to get PE to come in and do like some activities so parents can, at least maybe at the end of the 10-week or 8-week course, there's like a showcase of the 5 special. That's what we're trying to get to. All right. So that's one aspect. Then you have, when I started here, and you were here, K-12, I know grade levels did it, some buildings did it, some buildings didn't. I insisted we were doing award ceremonies for every grade level. If we had the kids for 180 days and we couldn't find something good about them, shame on us. That was my philosophy. So we started that. And so we did it during the day. And there was a lot of resistance because I didn't want to give Margaret it because she didn't pass my class or whatever. No, there's something Margaret or that student has done that we should be able to identify. There were times that I said, it's 2 awards per kid. Find something. You guys pick the award. But since that time, it's now become the standard. We have these award ceremonies. And now this year, we're bringing them all to the auditorium, so it's a much more formalized event. We're going to live stream it through the auditorium, so it's a nicer event. But those K-11 are during the day. And we do them on half days around schedule. The big events like high school band concerts, choir concert, the NHS at the high school, the plays, the awards ceremonies at the culmination, those are still evenings and will always be.
Contrary to the email.
Correct. The NJHS, the first year it went virtually was COVID year, 20. We couldn't have anything. We did a live stream. We did a virtual ceremony. All right? We did it during the day. The next year, we couldn't have anybody in the building. It was that first year back. We left it during the day. We now have a change in advisors. And the advisor has taken over. And again, I didn't know this until it was brought to my attention from the perspective of just continued what we had previously been doing during the day. Now, we're going to have a conversation because maybe that type of awards might be something that's better at night. I'm not disagreeing with the parent, but we have a balance, and each of our awards program has a purpose. The elementary, it's more of recognition. Heidi said it tonight. They only have an attention span about 1 minute per grade level, so you can't keep kindergartners in a room very long without them going squirrely on you. And even high school kids, you can't keep them long in an auditorium. So I guess so the high school, like I said, K-12, they're all at the auditorium this year. Seats 450, so we have enough for 350 kids. That's about 3 people for every kid that we recognize. So there should be plenty of room.
Yeah, because in the past, didn't we do like the award ceremony was from like 9, 10, and 11 together, and then the award ceremony
at one point we split it. And I believe it was split because it was originally in the gym, and it was like a 95-degree day. It was just sweltering. So we moved it to the auditorium last minute and split them up because we can't fit them all in the auditorium. And from that point forward, we kept them split up.
And it's better, I think, for parents because it is only usually like an hour and a half at the max.
Most of the award ceremonies are an hour, tops an hour. It's one class period at the high school. And we try to, So I guess the reason why I'm bringing it up is there's multiple why things have evolved and done it. So the original conversation about NJHS, it evolved from COVID. It went virtual that first year. Second year we couldn't have visitors. We kept it virtual. Changed an advisor, and she just kept it. And again, I'm not blaming anybody or saying. So I've committed that we're going to sit down and look at it and see where we are when we plan the dates for next year. But the day ones, a lot of times our parents take the kids out and take them home the rest of the day. They go out to lunch. It's a half day of school. We strategically plan them because at the end of the year on a half day of school, you're not breaking open a book and learning. That's the reality. So is there events that we could do to showcase? And so, like I said, my commitment 10 years ago, and it still is, that every kid needs to be recognized. There's something that kid is good at. And there's been years we've made specific, unique awards for kids.
Yes, we did. Okay, so we got that one on?
Yes. It's the right
okay, so Danielle, you're good because you brought that up. Anything else? Okay, Margaret?
Just to let the board know, Danielle and Sandy and I are committed to
doing our
student board
I
reps.
had that on mine. Good.
Yeah, well, I've been meaning, we talked about it a couple months ago, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I've been meaning to tell you, but I
so
wanted to say in front of everybody.
you're gonna, one of you, whatever, you're gonna run it and handle it, and then just like we did last year, and you'll let us know.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I have a question about that. Has there ever been any thought about one female and one male representative?
There's never been any...
Enough to even pick from that many probably.
The reality is, we're lucky. The one year, it was maybe 8 or 9 years ago. We had three applicants, and then one decided no. But we've had two.
Because like they could do like an alternate, kind of like we do with our MISD. Yeah, or MISD.
We've done two, and so
so like have an
there isn't
alternate that can't make it.
anything that says you can't have two girls.
Oh, that's true too, I guess. I was just like, maybe get an alternate so in case, like, if Connor couldn't make it, or then they could say, I can feel bad for these men. Right, or whatever. I see the season.
Oh, yeah,
this season.
So we're gonna, and the goal is to do it before school gets out, so that we've got somebody
ready to lined up for the fall. Perfect. That was I was going to ask if we had a committee yet.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, next item on our agenda is public comments. Since the last board meeting, both the board and the superintendent received an email from a parent regarding the time for the National Junior Honor Society induction, and Mr. Walmsley has addressed it with the parent. We had no public comments at the last board meeting, so there's nothing to address there. At this time, any member of the public may address the board. Please sign in and state your name. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Are there any public comments? Being no public comments, we'll move on to our agenda. Okay, I'm looking for a motion for the approval of headsets for laptops from Bloom of Minnesota LLC.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and award a contract to Bloom of Minnesota LLC for an amount not to exceed $13,513.50 as outlined in the attached documentation using funding from the 2023-2024 general fund.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion? Okay, this is a roll call vote. Margaret?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Sandy? Aye. Angela?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion carries. Okay, I'm looking for a motion for the approval of the GSRP startup classroom purchase from Lakeshore Learning.
I motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and award a contract to Lakeshore Learning for an amount not to exceed $46,811.92 as outlined in the attached documentation using fund from the general fund GSRP classroom startup grants.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion? This too is a roll call vote. Sandy?
Aye.
Margaret?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
Angela?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion carries. Looking for a motion for the approval of the Educational Assistance Program.
Move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the attached Educational Assistance Program EAP letter of agreement between Richmond Community Schools and Richmond Administrators Association, RAA, as outlined in the attached documentation. Furthermore, the board authorizes the superintendent or designee to amend the letter of agreements with the MEA Local 1, Richmond Education Association, REA, and MEA/Early Learning Childhood Center, ELCC, not yet signed, so long as the district's attorney is in agreement with amendments to the letter of agreement.
Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Sorry, guys. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of the overnight extended student trip request to Houston, Texas.
I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the overnight/extended student trip request to Houston, Texas for the high school robotics team to attend the Robotics World Competition in Houston, Texas, as outlined in the attached documentation. In addition, the board authorizes the superintendent to allocate up to $34,000 to support the robotics team's transportation, lodging, meals, and expenses, for which funding from the fiscal year 2024 general fund is authorized.
Do I have a support?
Support.
Any discussion? I have one question, and Margaret, you might be able to help me with this. Because of the amounts, $34,000, it's a roll call vote? Okay, thank you. Okay, this will be a roll call vote. Margaret?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Angela?
Aye.
Sandy?
Aye.
Candace?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion carries. Being no further business, the board will adjourn at 10:46. Thank you, guys.